me double check. You said. All right, Chair sees a quorum. We're going to go ahead and get started. The minutes from the last meeting been distributed. Are there any amendments to the minutes? Is there a motion to adopt the minutes?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so now we're going to go around. We'll start with Representative Snow, if we can do some introductions here.
Good morning. My name is Craig Snow, representative from District 22.
Kyra Helming, Senate Republican Fiscal Staff.
Chris Garden, State Senator from Senate District 45, which is all of Clark County and portions of Floyd.
Randir Jha, Legislative Services Agency.
Good morning, everyone. Fadi Kadura, Senate District 30, north side of Indianapolis.
Ed Delaney, House District 86, also the north side of Indianapolis.
Lisa Ackelbert, Deputy Budget Director.
Alice, House Democrat, Caucus.
Gregory Porter, House District 96, Central Indianapolis.
Courtney Everett, Deputy Budget Director.
Chad Ranney, State Budget Director.
Atlantis Richter, Director of Fiscal Policy, Senate Republicans.
Ryan Mishler, State Senate District 9, North Central Indiana.
Jeff Thompson, House District 28.
Joe Habig, Director of Fiscal Policy, House Republicans.
David Nizgotsky, Senate District 10, St. Joseph County.
Hope Tribble, Director of Fiscal Policy for the Senate Democratic Caucus.
I want to welcome Atlantis Richter back to the Senate. Took her back from the House. She saw the light again. And she's in her new role as our main fiscal analyst. So welcome back. Your first meeting with us. So with that, we've got a proposed agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would ask that we consider removing item number 14. It may be at some point that we're going to put this back on, but as of right now, I'd like to gain some more information and ask that we not review that item today. I'll make a motion to do that.
I'll second that motion.
All right. I'm going to agree with this. I was here for a meeting, so I wasn't able to do the tour yesterday, and I had many people on the tour reach out to me afterwards and said there seemed to be a little discrepancy between how this was explained on the tour as opposed to how it was presented to go on the agenda at Budget Committee. And so I'm going to agree that we should probably discuss this a little further and get some clarification. So I'm going to agree with that. So it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. So now the agenda is on the table for discussion. We will start with the projects. Department of Administration.
Grossman, I am currently the Director of Public Works for IDOA, and
if I could have you sit so you would, and then pull the mic. I don't think they can hear you. Thank you. Then just pull the mic toward you. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me now? Thank you for having me here today. I appreciate the opportunity to present this to the committee. As I was saying, I'm Bob Grossman, current Director of Public Works for Indiana Department of Administration and also Deputy Commissioner for IDOA. The project I'm bringing for or representing today is that for IDOA request approval of the $18 million for IFA R&R funds for, excuse me, let me check my notes here. 13 various facilities that were initial bonded facilities and currently are, some of them carry the bonds. IDOA helps facilitate IFA in executing these R&R projects.
Any questions for Mr. Grossman? All right, thank you. Next, we have Indiana State Police. I'm going to have you do all three while you're up there. You've got 3 projects. I'm going to have you do all 3 while you're up there.
Morning, and thank you for having us. I'm Mick McClanahan with the Indiana State Police. I'm our commander of the Logistics Division. We have 3 projects on the agenda today, the first of which is a floor covering rehabilitation in the amount of $130,000. This is to improve our facilities at the 21st Street facility, which is our main logistics facility. It was built in 1985, and the floor coverings are that old. We'd like to remove and replace the 4,400 square feet that are there to bring this up to current functional standards. Also, we have our Bloomington Dispatch Center, which is approximately 648 square feet, that's 19 years old. We would like to upgrade those floorings and get them back to standard. Our second project is a HVAC replacement on the toll road post. The total cost is $322,600. The purpose of this is to remove and replace the existing HVAC system that was put in operation in 2007 for our 16,000 square foot facility, which does house one of our regional dispatch centers. We found that the equipment on the systems are failing, and it is more cost effective to replace the entire system rather than to maintain outdated equipment. Our third and final project is encompassing 3 other smaller contingencies, which are facilities, garage, and lawn care equipment. The purpose is to replace aging and outdated equipment to support all of our facilities throughout the state. The first is replace aging and outdated vehicle lifts and air compressors, which are in excess of 25 years old, and the vehicle lifts have failed their safety inspections, so their required replacement is necessary. The second of these projects is a replacement of some needed support equipment. We have some older equipment of 25 to 35 years old and want to replace that with a single compact tractor, pull-behind bucket lift, and a skid steer to support our 14 posts and our logistics division here on 21st Street. And our final request from this fund is the replacement of lawn care equipment. We need to acquire 11 new lawn mowers that are in excess of 20 years old, in addition to weed eaters and leaf blowers to maintain our facilities statewide. I appreciate your approval for these projects, and if you have any questions, I'm available for them.
Questions on any of these? All right, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Indiana Law Enforcement Academy.
Committee. My name is Tim Horty. I serve as the Executive Director at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy in Plainfield. The ILEA is requesting funding for a switchgear replacement. The switchgear is basically the electrical panel that comes in and manages the electrical input and output of the academy. Our main building switchgear is in need of replacement. It's 49 years old, and when we married the new and the old buildings, it was obvious to us that it needed replacement, and we would respectfully ask for $313,000.
Just a question, why didn't you replace this when you did the major remodel?
We looked at that initially and thought that it had some life to it. We trusted the electrical engineer. He thought it had life left, but when we married the two, it became obvious right away that it wouldn't handle the load.
Any questions? Representative Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just concur with you. We spend a lot of money out there, and it seems like we keep spending and spending. I hope that the engineers or whomever is continuing with this project out, Law Enforcement Assistant Academy, will, you know, I don't want to see y'all no more.
Yes,
for a
sir.
while.
Yes, sir.
That's my personal opinion. Thank you. We agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Adjutant General's Office?
Members of today's event here today. I am here on behalf of General Munich. He is the Adjutant General for the Indiana National Guard, and he sends his regrets of not being able to attend today. I'm here to ask for 2 line item budget requests for the Indiana National Guard. We're seeking release of $8,557,800 for construction of the Crawfordsville Armory modernization project. We originally asked for these design funds in December of 2025. We expect design completion and bids for this later in August of this year. The existing readiness center is 17,490 square feet, was constructed in 1957 with a 2021 female latrine conversion. We plan to construct an additional square footage of 6,200 square feet and renovate the existing 17,000 plus square feet. Currently, the facility does not comply with code requirements to include the American for Disabilities Act, anti-terrorism and force protection requirements, the National Electrical Code, fire alarm systems, HVAC fresh air requirements, or egress requirements. Not investing these dollars in the Crawfordsville Armory will continue to increase the maintenance costs, and the overall poor condition of the Armory has a negative impact on recruiting and training efforts. Currently, there's over $2.4 million backlogged in maintenance and repair costs. Funding of this project will allow divestiture of one of our older armories and will save additional future utility costs of over $2 million in backlog maintenance costs after that armory closes as well. As planned, this project includes 42% state investment and 58% federal investment, which is a grand bargain in our eyes. The state portion is $3,594,279, and federal contribution is just under $5 million. Construction of the modernization project typically takes 12 to 16 months, and we expect the new facility to be complete in fall of 2027. And pending any questions on this project request, I'll move on to the next.
Questions?
Okay. Our second is that we are seeking release of $7,837,061 for construction of the Elkhart Armory modernization project. We expect design completion and bids to be in to us by early August. And we initially asked for these design funds in December 2025 as well. The existing Readiness Center is just over 26,000 square feet and was constructed in 1964 with a small addition in 2005. We plan to construct an addition of this armory to an additional 4,000 square feet and renovate the 26,000 existing square feet. Currently, this facility does not comply with the same requirements as the previous one to include ADA, anti-terrorism force protection requirements, National Electrical Code, HVAC systems, fresh air requirements, or egress requirements. Not investing in this project in Elkhart will continue to increase maintenance costs, and the overall condition also has negative impacts on recruiting and training efforts. Fully funding this construction of this project will allow for divestiture of one of our other older armories and will save an estimated $2.5 million in backlog maintenance costs. As planned, this project includes 44% state funds and 56% federal investment. We expect to have the new Elkhart facility complete also in fall of 2027. And pending any questions, that's all I have for our request today.
Questions? Senator Garten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for your presentation. You referenced recruiting efforts a couple times. If you could just shed some light, where are we at from a force readiness standpoint as a state?
From a force readiness standpoint, I would say, are you looking for percentage of available personnel or? Well, because readiness comes in many forms to include training personnel.
Absolutely. So if you could just give us some concept of where are we at? How many openings do we have, or is recruiting up or down from a trend standpoint?
Right.
And then just overall force readiness.
Yes.
If you can just give us an idea.
We're less than 100% on the Army side. Air National Guard is consistently at 100% or better, which is great as far as personnel and filling those positions.
When you say less than 100, are we at 90? Are we at 75? Are we at
I would say we're currently at 92%, give or take. Now, that does fluctuate throughout the year, right? So on average, I would say 92%. And that's not the greatest, obviously, but it in order for us to draw young adults, young men and women to join the Indiana National Guard, we've got to give them something in return. We've got to give them good training, quality training, and we've got to do it at sites that are modernized to support our current force structure and our future force structure as well, because that continues to change throughout the years as well.
How has recruiting changed in the last, say, 5 to 10 years?
It's hard. It's recruiting is very difficult. Trying to meet soldiers where they're at and try to sell them, the love for the service. We're competing with a lot of things, to include the economy, to include full-time jobs that are, in many cases paying more than what the military can pay for. So we're working to get those benefits increased, of course, but we're also competing with colleges and universities too.
Sure. And then just last question, and I'm going to make this term up. Do we have recruiting deserts anywhere in the state, or geographically, are there more challenging areas to recruit in the state than others?
Sure, there are. So there are some that are
And if so, why?
harder to recruit, sometimes because of just the current population. And of course, that changes, ebbs and flows over the years. But I would say, I wouldn't say that there's any long-standing recruiting deserts, but certain areas are just harder because of eligible personnel. Inner city, it's hard because there's some things that prevent potential soldiers from becoming soldiers because of maybe their past.
So geographically, where would you see those shortfalls?
Northwestern Indiana and also central Indiana.
Got it. Okay. Thanks again for being here today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Office of the Utility Consumer Counselor.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Parvane Stover, and I'm Chief of Staff for the Energy and Natural Resources vertical, where these two agencies fall. We're here today for the second time seeking approval for the IURC and OUCC renovation project, where we're moving both agencies from the PNC building across the street into the Government Center North. Together, the two agencies are paying about $1.1 million per year in rent, so this project has a great ROI with a break-even point of just under 2 years. We've also identified some cost savings in co-locating these two agencies, like a shared reception area, a shared break room, a shared large conference room to avoid duplicative construction costs. The space in the north building makes up half of the 10th floor, about 22,000 square feet, and it hasn't been renovated since the 90s, so it will certainly benefit from some much-needed upgrades. I appreciate your support, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Representative Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Stover, this request, in reading our notes, it says that we're looking at $1 million more. I mean, $951,000 more. We've already allocated $1 million for this project, correct?
Yes.
So you need another $951,000, and we allocate that in October of 2025.
That's correct.
And you did indicate that the return on investment will be about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a little problem with my observation is, spending that much money, but it's probably going to move forward. But my question is this. So the lease, when is the lease up for this said facility at PNC?
They have two separate leases for each for the separate agencies. The OUCC's lease ends December of this year. The IURC's lease has another couple years on it, but we're working on determining an out for that. So
And
we'll be canceling the lease.
so it's going to cost us in regards to the OUCC lease to be broken,
No,
right?
there shouldn't be.
The IURC lease to be.
No, there shouldn't
So
be.
you say that it has 2 more years on their lease, and you want to move into this facility by when?
December.
December of this year. But you have one agency has 2 more on their lease, 2 more years on their lease, correct?
Yes.
And you feel that they're going to say, sure, you guys can leave without any penalty?
All state lease contracts have a number of clauses available for agencies to use to exit leases when our financial circumstances change. And this is one where the cost of staying in that lease space, the negative aspect outweighs the positive aspect, which was why we want to move into the free space that we have available in the Government Center.
So you're saying that you use the word financial situations change?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering that. I'm quite sure what's occurred in the last 24 hours, people in the Indianapolis area is going to have some financial changes also. Thank you.
Representative Delaney?
Yes, I've noticed considerable attention to the utility rates in light of all the appeals and in light of the growth of the data centers. Are you adding staff in this new facility to deal with those issues? Is that one of the reasons that you want this money?
Our hope is to free up cost savings from the leases to use for additional staff, yes.
So I take it implicit in that is that there is a need for additional staff for the utility consumer counselor.
I think our perspective is this funding would be better allocated towards staff versus private exterior lease payments.
So you're going to finance the additional staff not by a direct advance from the legislature, but instead through cost savings?
I mean, I think long-term, it makes sense whenever possible to move agencies from leased space to free government space. And this space on the 10th floor recently became available through another agency consolidating their space. So it seemed to make sense all around.
And how many staff do you expect to add to the utility consumer counselor, and to what end? What are they supposed to do, the new staff?
They're working on determining their staff needs right now. As all agencies prepare for next year's budget conversations, we're looking to figure out what our current staff is, what our needs are going to be. So I can't tell you that today, but we will have that information for you.
Implicit in your answer is that there will be a need for more staff for this particular agency.
That's possible. I don't want to give you a yes or no until I know the answer to that.
Well, I want to thank you for finding a way to finance it through savings, but it is apparent that we do need additional staff. I mean, the governor, among others, has been very critical about the way the IURC is working and what's happening to the consumer. So I encourage you to move rapidly on this one. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll take that feedback back.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Next, we have Indiana Finance Authority, Jim McGough.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Indiana Finance Authority requests continued funding for the Water Infrastructure Assistance Program. The program provides low-interest loans and grants for drinking and wastewater utility infrastructure projects and is managed along with the IFA's EPA-funded State Revolving Fund loan program. At the conclusion of state fiscal year 2025, the program had received a total of $100 million in funding and closed loans, with 36 borrowers totaling $108 million, 57% of which were with utilities serving 3,200 customers or less, exceeding the statutory requirements of 40%. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions? I apologize, Sherry, you're on my list too. I missed it, so. All right, next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Sherry Sywert, and I am the Program Director for the Indiana Residential Housing Infrastructure Assistance Fund. As you may recall, in 2023, the state legislature created the fund, the revolving fund, to fund infrastructure to support new housing units around the state of Indiana. We respectfully request an additional $25 million to continue the success of the program. To date, we've closed $78.3 million in loans throughout the state, with another $21 million pending loans. We have approximately 3,700 units in the pipeline to be built as a result of those funds, with an additional 1,136 units once the remaining loans are closed. Happy to answer any questions.
Senator Kadora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. Is there a report that outlines where these units are by community or by zip code, and the value of the homes that have been created, and any more details about the specifics?
We do have a map on our website that you can scroll over each county to see where the loans have been made. But I can certainly get you the price points on all of the, we'll submit a updated report on August 1st, and I will include all of the price points of each project in each county.
So if you don't mind, I can wait till August 1st, which is fine, so nothing urgent. But I remember when we debated this legislation that created the fund, I had concerns that the legislation did not create parameters around where these loans are given and to what communities, and whether the savings are passed on to homeowners, because the whole genesis behind the bill was to help with housing affordability, especially in communities that are hit the hardest. So I argued that the way that the legislation was drafted, you can be issuing loans to cities and counties that are extremely thriving, Hamilton County, Boone County, and subsidizing homes that could be $1 million homes. I'm not suggesting that's the case of what you have done, but I think absent a report with the details of which communities, the value of these homes, or the price, and whether or not people were able to afford these homes, I think that will confirm whether or not the legislation was helpful or not. So if it was helpful, amazing. Maybe that could be a blueprint to add more money to it in the future. And if it needs to be tweaked, then we can come back and work with our colleagues to tweak it to be sure that we're addressing really the housing crisis.
It's fair.
I appreciate it.
I will assure you that at least through the applications we received, the price point is anywhere from $250,000 to $350,000. We've not seen any in excess of
More than
that.
that.
So it's really, and we have a ranking system that we've created, so it prioritizes workforce housing.
Excellent, and that's the details I'm looking for. So that will be included in the August report. Yes. Excellent, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Skotsky.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your report. I do appreciate the transparency you have on your portal. Being that we're just a few months away, it seems like you're ready to proceed with another $25 million. Please, it'd be great to see just how that's been distributed again, because if it is a successful program, and if we have a budget session where we don't have sensitivities that may draw us back, it would be wonderful to do things that can and truly help people that need the help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. Next, we have Department of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the committee. I'm Greg Sarles, the Deputy Director and CFO for the Department of Natural Resources. DNR has 3 capital projects on the agenda today, and thank you for the opportunity to allow us to present those projects. All 3 of these will ultimately showcase DNR properties and provide a better visitor experience. The first project, we request $384,250 for the replacement of picnic tables. The Department of Natural Resources, through a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Correction, will purchase 2,650 tables at a cost of $145 a piece. The tables are 5 feet in length and sort of our standard. They're produced by DOC labor. DNR normally plans to replace about 10% of our tables annually. So DOC will construct and deliver 25 tables to 53 DNR properties.
Continue.
Okay. The second project, DNR requests approval of $1,461,188.60 for the testing and redesign of the HVAC and environmental control systems throughout the Abe Martin Lodge. The lodge is the most popular and well-used state park inn facility in our park system. Its close proximity to the town of Nashville draws a huge economic boost to all of us in the area. Over the past 3 to 4 years, the number of breakdowns in the HVAC systems have just risen beyond our financial capabilities, whether that be through room refunds, guest service complaints, or just the sheer volume of repairs due to the antiquated system. We currently have 11 separate HVAC systems, so every time we've remodeled, we've installed a new system, and it's just at a point where it's shot.
Questions on those two projects? Representative Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question in regards to point of information. In regards to the picnic tables, sincerely, they're unrepairable, correct? So are we going to use wood again for those picnic tables, or is there some new type of materials we'll be using to replace those picnic tables?
So we'll be using wood again. We also do repair some of our existing tables. We have tables that date back that are actually stamped Department of Conservation from back in the 60s. So we feel like we get a good use. We have tried the recycled materials, and through the course of moving them, people putting their grills on top of them, they just don't seem to last.
Okay, and who will, will our inmates be building these picnic tables? Yes. I know at one point they did.
Yes, they will be.
So the Department of Corrections will be providing the picnic tables as we provide the materials for those said picnic tables?
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you very much.
You know, I want to compliment you on the cost. You know, I know Senator Garten and I sit here and rip on them for the cost of trails and how expensive things are and how much money we spend on things. So I did the math, and you're going to build these for under $110 a piece. So I will compliment you on keeping your costs down. So thank you. So next.
In our third project, last project for today, we request $5,490,933 for agency general repair and rehab projects. General rehab at our DNR properties is the most efficient way for property managers to manage projects locally. These projects are typically larger than the traditional preventive maintenance, but smaller than a full-blown engineering design or consultant contract. This request includes the highest priority health and safety and code violations for fish and wildlife, law enforcement, nature preserves, and state parks.
Questions? All right, thank you. Oh, Representative Thompson.
I want to kind of follow up on your comment, Mr. Chairman. I think it's really important that you take these inmates and move them down a path of being productive citizens. To me, that is a great thing, because our goal is, when they leave, to be productive. Isn't that right? Now, not to ever come back. And so I think it's a great thing to get them to work and have a work ethic. So thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Department of Corrections, Kevin Orm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I appreciate your time this morning to consider these projects. I'm Kevin Orm. I'm the Executive Director of the Construction Services Division for the Indiana Department of Correction. I have with me this morning, I'm joined by Commissioner Arnold, the agency head of the Department of Correction. So I'll start with the 6 projects that we have for your consideration this morning. The first project is ground fault circuit interrupters at the Indiana State Prison as far as our fire response strategy. I outlined to Representative Delaney last time and the entire committee a very good strategy on all fronts to deal with these. This is a continuation of that. The ground fault circuit interrupters, very simply, if an inmate goes to spark something in their cell, they cannot continue it to light a fire. It will immediately disengage the electrical service to their cells. About 1,800 of them in several housing units at the Indiana State Prison.
Questions? Continue.
The second project is for 3 units at the Heritage Trails Correctional Facility, replacing the HVAC and air conditioning. These are secure units. Were designed with inoperable windows to get heating and cooling inside the building, to keep the air movement. We require the replacement of 3 units that are over 30 years old. We've already got this project designed and ready to construct.
Questions?
The next project is for the Correctional Industrial Facility. The Correctional Industrial Facility, located in Pendleton, Indiana, receives its thermal energy via steam transmission underground from the Pendleton Correctional Powerhouse. We use the steam to quite effectively, cost-effectively generate hot water for these units. The hot water generators in the correctional industrial facility were installed in 1985. We've gotten our service life out of them. It is simply time to go through and replace all of them to normal wear and tear.
Questions?
The next project is for the parole building roof replacement at Newcastle Correctional Facility. This was one of the buildings that was transferred to the Indiana Department of Correction from Family Social Services Administration from when it was a state hospital. We believe the roof to be about 50 years old. It's time in its life cycle for a strategic replacement. The roofs we use today, we plan for a 30-year lifespan, and we're ready to effect this project.
Questions?
The next project is for the Plainfield Correctional Facility, replacing the HVAC in the healthcare unit. Of particular note, this part of the healthcare unit is 24,751 square feet, built in 1994. It has had no major rehabilitation. The air conditioning and air handling systems in that building have reached a point in their life where you can no longer maintain them. The types of refrigerants have changed, and it's more cost effective to go through and do a strategic replacement of this system. It also includes the Indiana Department of Corrections' most secure healthcare unit, where we use for the stabilization and isolation of inmates who require medical isolation. A unique unit.
Senator Skotsky.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. If I might add, I'm certain the refrigerants have probably changed at least twice since then. So that means the previous ones continue to go up in cost in trying to maintain, and if they don't even take, you just wasted. So it sounds like you're doing the right thing there.
Very much, sir. We actually maintain stockpiles. Our agency is so large, we actually maintain stockpiles of those antiquated refrigerants that are purchased under my license. And we can use for emergency response statewide until we switch the systems over. We've gotten pretty good at it over the years.
And you might get a little better cost, but I'm sure your cost has still risen because they're antiquated.
Astronomically, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Representative Delaney?
Yes, I can't resist the fact that the commissioner's here, and we're funding these projects. How are we doing on collecting money from the national government on the Miami Correctional Facility lease to the ICE agency?
Representative Delaney, I'm glad you asked that question, because also we could give some clarification on exactly how it's been going. So we started that detainment center in October of 25. We received our first payment in February of 26. So roughly it takes about 100 days to start receiving those payments. And I want everybody to kind of keep in mind it's all done with paper. It's not all electronics. It was going back and forth between us and the federal government to ensure that the payment is done properly in that time frame. But every month since the month of February of 26, we have received our payment every single month. So the last payment we did receive was for February of 26, and we received that on June 4th. And just like here in early July, we expect to receive the March payment. So it's really about 100 days after the billing process is over is when we receive it. But every month they've not missed a month. They've paid us since February on. And so far to date, we received just a little over $20 million.
A little over how many million?
A little over 20 million.
20 million. And what is your estimate as to your cost to date, as opposed to the revenue of 20 million?
So a lot of the costs that we would have it already if that facility was open. So, but we are trying to keep it separate to show roughly about $22 million, but that's also counting the 0.1 of about $11 million that we'd have for staff anyway, but it's also for utilities, clothing, and different things we have in there. So next month, I would say we'd be basically on the positive side next month, because we'll have the additional $5 million on top of that 22. But a lot of those expenses we are incurring, we would have already had. So with this revenue, it's actually making it very good for the state.
My question gets down to this. We're getting $292 a day for the ICE detainees. And so far, I know there's a 100-day delay. So far, our expenses are exceeding our revenue. You're hoping that'll shift. What's the long-term prognosis? Are we going to end up with funds that are not required and can be deployed for other uses of your department, or are we not going to get that?
I think it'd be more of the determination of this committee or the General Assembly of how that would actually be determined.
Right, but,
But obviously, we would like to be able to capture those funds to be able to make improvements like these. We're talking about
Right.
other things where we don't have to, continuously take money out of the general fund to do that, and we could be, more.
But do you have an estimate as to let's say at the end of 1 year, which would be the 1st of October, as to where we'll be in terms of our expenses versus our revenue on this project?
I don't have a good, accurate number for you on that, just because the aspect is, traditionally, I'd say over the last 6 months, we were sitting at right about 500 detainees. Now we're over 600 detainees, so that number is going to continue to increase. They'll also increase our profit margin with that, but I can break it down a little bit more for you, Representative Delaney, and get better numbers to you.
I think we need to understand that, because this is a unique and, in my mind, regrettable program we're involved in. But we and the public needs to understand what the effect is. When we talked about this in the General Assembly, I guess it was in the budget talks, no, it was last fall in this committee, there was an estimate of some $10–15 million for what amounted to capital expenditures. I have the impression that we've not been required to build out any new facilities.
At Miami,
Yes.
we have not had to use really hard hand for the capital improvements at that facility. There was some talk of that, things we may have to do to staff it or bring things in. We've been very fortunate with having this money to be able to give the additional $50 a day stipend a day. Our hiring practices have actually increased, and we're able to staff it, which has been really good for us from the aspect of we lose the detainment center in 2 years. We decide not to do another 2-year contract with them. At the end of it, then we can figure out, some people have staffing to put our own inmates in that facility.
So you directly have experience with the fact that if you pay more, it's easier to recruit people. That's your experience.
I'm going to be coming back to you guys this next session asking for a lot more so we can be safe in all of our facilities.
So what's happening to the correctional officers, say, at Michigan City? Are they still on the old pay scale?
Yes, we're still on the same pay scale there at Michigan City.
So we have
across
a
the entire state.
distinction. We have a distinction between our staff at the ICE facility and at all others. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate the information.
Thank you, Representative.
Yeah, I just want to get a clarification. So when you say you're kind of at the break-even point right now, it sounds like it's because you're still capturing your upfront costs. And after this break-even point, the money you receive ongoing will be positive revenue because you'll have captured your upfront costs. Is that kind of how I'm hearing it?
You are. If we didn't count, because really in all reality, the .1, so $10 million of this is our salaries we're paying our staff across that board. So if we were properly staffed before this even happened, we already budgeted for that $10 million, but we're just putting it in there so we can show you, hey, this is what it's costing on this side, but we'd be paying for a lot of that staff already because not everybody that's working on the I side are new hires. So a lot of that money was actually already budgeted. So I look at it as we're already in the black, just because I know we already have those people. We have to turn the lights on, we have to turn the power on, everything else we're doing, but we are just trying to capture the two different sides of that facility. So I think we're already on the positive, but I just want to be able to show you all the two differences on that, the actual numbers. But we would have had those expenses, a lot of those expenses already.
That's fair. Any other questions? Yeah.
Just a comment. I think the bottom line, Mr. Chairman, is that there really weren't a lot of upfront costs. There were ongoing costs that we're now getting covered by a different way. It's not like we put out $15 million as we had expected.
Correct.
So
we've been able to move along, and it's
our biggest
been very efficient.
problem right now is it costs a lot for personnel. That's a problem, I guess you can call it. And the other one is the delay in payments. You put those two together, you pretty much understand where we're at.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield to Representative Delaney. My question, per our conversations that we've had, Commissioner Arnold, and what the chairman said, when we pay off the bills, et cetera, we come in the black, and you did mention earlier that you would like those dollars to go into, be restricted to help take care of some of the needs within Department of Corrections. And I support that versus it going back to the general fund. So I hope as we have these conversations that we understand that, and I know, but in 2 years, you're gonna have to, if we will have to renegotiate our contract with the federal government, and at 292.60 whatever, 291.62 whatever, it's not going to be there anymore. So I think since we are quote unquote flush with these new dollars, that we utilize those dollars to put back into the program, into your department, as you said, and take the strain off of the general budget. And I would support that. I think as a legislator on the budget committee and in Ways and Means. Thank you, just a FYI, and thank you for that.
Thank you, Representative.
Other questions? All right. Next project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My last project is a roofing project at the Plainfield Correctional Facility, the same facility that I discussed the HVAC renovation to previously. There's nothing exciting about this roofing project at all. The previous chairman of this committee has told me that not everyone thinks that commercial roofing projects are as exciting as I do. It's 24,751 square foot roof. It's about 30 years old. The only thing that you might find interesting is, to echo some earlier comments, is the Department of Correction has millions of square feet of roof. We maintain ours very strategically. We train inmates to manage those roofs. We actually reintroduce them back into the workforce with some certifications that allow them to get jobs roofing buildings. No one cares what the rap sheet for the guy roofing the building or running the wastewater plant says. So we've been very, very successful in teaching that and using them for these roof renovation projects. And this project is one of them that has been was one of our early projects that we started using to train inmates in roof renovation, and its time is simply done.
Questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Secretary Arnold. Next, we have Department of Transportation. Nathan Hood.
Good morning, Chairman Mishler, members of the committee. My name is Nathan Hood, and I'm the Assistant Statewide Facilities Director with the Indiana Department of Transportation. We have 6 projects on the agenda today for your consideration. I'll just go through them and ask for questions in between if that sounds okay. The first is salt dome concrete wall repairs. We're requesting funding for the repairs of 14 different salt domes around the state. This is associated with the same issues we've discussed in previous meetings. The concrete cracks and salt infiltration has caused corrosion of the steel reinforcement bars over time. This causes the concrete to delaminate from the rest of the wall. We had a third-party engineer certify that these buildings were no longer structurally sound. Without the repair, the concrete walls are in danger of collapsing. Sometimes they estimated within the next 5 years. This funding would reinforce these final 14 domes and would extend their life by an estimated 20 extra years or so. This request would fund the final round of repairs on the issue that we addressed initially back in December.
Questions? Continue.
All right, the next project I have for you is brine building and paint booth. NDOT is requesting funding for the construction of a brine building and a paint booth. The brine building is in our LaPorte facility. It has an underproducing brine system that can't keep up with demand during our winter operations. The proposed replacement will result in much more efficient production rates and will lead to quicker response times for snow and ice treatment. The second half of that request is the paint booth in our Seymour district. In addition to performing preventative maintenance work for NDOT's fleet, it also assists other state agencies such as Indiana State Police, Department of Natural Resources, and IDEM. The Seymour District Body Shop is experiencing sustained operational growth over the last few years, and it now exceeds the physical capacity of the paint booth infrastructure. Since 2022, the shop has seen an increase of 68.6% in work orders. So the proposed upgrade will allow NDOT to better keep up with that demand.
Questions?
right, the third project here is various statewide general rehabilitation projects, and there's sort of 5 sub-projects within this category. The first project would be to install building access control system, which is the badges we all use, and replacing fencing at the Cloverdale Subdistrict facility. Access control is necessary to provide building security and to ensure assets are properly secured. The second is affixed to an HVAC system at one of our buildings in the Fort Wayne district. We would be installing a new heating, several pieces of heating equipment to reduce the strain on the existing furnace there. The third and fourth projects under this rehabilitation category are overhead door installations at a couple of different sub-district facilities. They are looking to replace overhead doors due to general wear and tear over their years, and they've come to the end of their useful life. The new doors will be installed. There'll be steel doors that are insulated and better equipped to withstand the Indiana winters. The fifth general rehabilitation project is the replacement of windows at the Vincennes District Administration Complex. The windows are leaking, and failed seals have caused condensation to collect between the window panes. New windows will provide better insulation and will cut down on the heating and cooling costs and reduces the strain on the HVAC system there.
Questions? Continue.
All righty. The Indiana Department of Transportation is requesting funding for the construction of 11 pole barns. These projects would address a variety of facility management concerns across the state. Put simply, these buildings protect expensive NDOT assets. NDOT invests millions of dollars in equipment and vehicles every year, and it's important to make sure that these items are properly stored. These barns will store vehicles such as our plow trucks and equipment such as our loaders and tractors. These barns would keep these expensive assets out of the weather and extend their useful life.
Questions?
NDOT is also requesting funding for 9 statewide roofing projects that would address structural and operational concerns. Those include missing shingles, rotted roof deck sheeting, water infiltration that will eventually result in mold growth. Occupied buildings have a chance at becoming unoccupiable, and the salt buildings run the risk of contaminating the salt.
Questions?
And then the final agenda item I have for you is the request for funding for the construction of the Pigeon Creek Welcome Center sanitary sewer extension. The facilities are currently serviced by an on-site wastewater treatment plant, which is quite old. I believe it was built in the 70s. The existing wastewater treatment plant is inefficient and requires additional maintenance pretty regularly to meet environmental standards. NDOT has entered into agreement with the city of Angola that would allow us to extend the sanitary sewer line along the I-69 right-of-way, and it will serve as a private service to the Welcome Center. Funding for the architectural and engineering work was approved by this committee in June of 2025.
Senator Cordero?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I don't have a question about this item, but because this is the conclusion of NDOT's presentation, I have a request for the committee. I have a question and I have a request for the committee. Is there a report that NDOT can share with this committee about the Mid-States Corridor project and the status of that project? I see several items on here are using state highway funds, and my understanding is that NDOT canceled 300 local projects to be able to fund the Mid-States Corridor project. Is that correct?
I am not familiar with road projects, but I'd be happy to talk with folks and get you something.
Thank you for that. So, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, my office received concerns from that region. They came up with some information that is disturbing, including relationship between bankers who sit on the bank that is potentially financing some of these projects, the relationship and the benefits of some companies, and even some citizens in that region came up with some information about who it would benefit from state government, as far as either elected officials or their companies and so on. And I was shocked that 300 local projects get canceled without General Assembly oversight. 300 local projects to fund one state highway project. Now, if there's an economic development value for this, I think there shouldn't be any lack of transparency about why we're not being communicated about the project, its impact, why it's needed. But I am getting emails on that and would appreciate the committee's investigating the need for that project and why it came at the expense of 300 local projects, who made these decisions, and who benefits from such a project. So I'd appreciate your thoughts on that.
Okay, I can't speak just to the Mid-States project, but I will say this. In one of the bills this year, there was some language that would require NDOT to come to Budget Committee before they could do projects of a certain size. In that, I believe, and that's why I was trying to clarify, I believe it would capture 6 projects. One of those projects, I believe, is Mid-States Corridor. So it's my understanding that if it's one of those 6 projects, it would have to come in front of this committee before they could move forward with it. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That would be amazing. I assume by the time they are ready to present to us, most likely they will not show up to this committee unless they are seeking approval. Because otherwise, if they're not seeking approval, they wouldn't show up in the first place. Is it possible that we get ample communication ahead of the committee to study and analyze the NDOT proposal before it gets approved by this committee? Because occasionally, I speak for myself, as a member of the minority on this committee and also as an alternate member, with IEDC and some other agencies, we don't receive ample communication before we show up to the committee. And this is a huge project. It's not in my district, but when people are telling me that 300 local projects were canceled, I've never heard in my years with state government that a state agency can just, with the stroke of a pen, cancel 300 projects without coming to us. So I really appreciate you holding them accountable and being sure that we vet the proposal before it moves forward.
And I'll be clear, I can't speak to 300 projects either. I can get the committee the language that we put out this year that would capture those projects. And it's my understanding that they would have to come in front of us for each project, not just a lump sums all 6, but each project would have to come in front of Budget Committee. But I'll be happy to get that language to the members of the committee. I don't know if I have a specific list of what that captures, and we might be able to get that.
That would be great.
It's 5 or 6. I think it's 6.
That would be great. And
if we have those, we'll try to get you the 6 projects that it would cover.
Amazing. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And for NDOT, if you don't mind, as a follow-up, I personally, as a member of this committee, would like to receive information from NDOT on the status of that project and the justification behind it. And I would request, officially and formally request that before NDOT shows up to testify or to present this project to this committee, that we have you have ample time in communicating with us of what the project details are, the cost-benefit analysis, and the list of every project. If it's true, the 300 projects, local projects were canceled, I would like to see a listing of every project that was canceled with the justification of why it was canceled. So I'd appreciate your follow-up on this.
Yeah, thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Point of clarification, were those projects canceled or were they pushed back or delayed? I know in Senate Bill 27, that's what you're referring to in regards to those said projects. So my point would be, I just wonder if they were just pushed back or if they were delayed or canceled.
The projects captured in Senate Bill 27 or the 300 that he's talking about?
300 he's talking.
Yeah, I can't speak to that 300 projects.
Okay, he keeps saying, I don't know, I'm just.
Yeah, I work for NDOT facilities, so I'm not overly familiar with road projects.
Well, I think that's also important. Another point is that you made a comment about there's 14 salt domes, right? Did you say these were the last of the salt domes?
This is the last of the group that was identified to have structural issues back in December.
Oh, the last of this group, not the last we will ever see this again and go to salt domes.
For better or for worse, we will be building salt domes for some time.
Oh, I think the worst part is the part of it. Okay, yeah, right. Thank you. I'm just trying to help you out, Mr. Chairman, how we feel about those salt domes. Thank you.
I'm guessing the majority of those salt domes are up north where I live, but we use a lot more salt. Representative Delaney.
Yeah, thank you. And by the way, the witness was very kind to reassure me on our way in here that we'll be hearing less of the salt domes, and I'm happy about that. I'm very familiar with the statutory language that you talked about, Chairman Mishler, about projects over a certain size have to come here. And I support that. I think that's a great concept. We seem to have discovered a problem, which is we did not deal with the possibility that other worthy projects would be reserved or put on hold in order to build up a fund to support those 5 or 6 larger projects. That seems to be what's happening. And I think we need to understand that. I don't know, there's probably a way to draft a bill that says that if you've got projects that are at a certain point and that people are committed to, and maybe bids are out, that you can't cancel them in order to create a kitty to come in for one of the 5 or 6 big projects. But I think the only way around this is for the INDOT to appear here and tell us, did they have 300 or 250 or whatever number of projects that were at some point along in their planning that were canceled in order to set money aside for the mid-state corridors or something else. So I think we need to have somebody here to explain that. Otherwise, we're just sitting here waiting for the shoe to drop when they think it's best to come after the $250 million. So I hope we can get somebody here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So Representative Delaney, here's a thought. We've done this before with other agencies. We could, in one of our next budget committee meetings, ask INDOT to do a presentation of their road projects, what they have in the pipeline, give you an opportunity to ask about the 300. I'm happy to invite them to do a presentation for us. Is that fair?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's very useful. It's more than fair. I think it's very helpful to all of us.
Okay. We will try to set that up in one of our future meetings, because I'm unfortunately, I know he's not the one that's going to answer these questions. I know he's not trying to avoid them. That happens sometimes. They send the people to speak on these type of projects, but I think that's a fair request. I think a lot of our members have the same questions that you've addressed, so I have no problem asking them to do a presentation for us this summer. Any other questions? I think that was your last one, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to the university projects. First up, we have Ball State, Becca Rice.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Becca Rice. I serve as the Vice President for Governmental Relations and Industry Engagement at Ball State University. We are excited to come before you today to talk about the Village Green and Martin Street improvements. This project is a continuation of some of the other projects that we've talked to you about with the village development. As a reminder, the village development really is a physical symbol of President Mearns' and our university's belief that an institution, a state institution like ours, should be a catalyst in the community, the state, and the region in which we live. And so the projects, the 5 sites that we are developing in the village are all around how it is we can, how we help our institution to serve our community, serve our businesses in the unity with our Center for Innovation and Collaboration. And even the children in our community can see that that level of investment, over $200 million of investment in that area, is making a difference. As my 5-year-old says, it's really coming along, Mom. So we're looking forward to some fall openings of some of those buildings. This project is not actually a building. It is a $5.4 million project that is really the center point of the village. It's hardscape and streetscape that connects the center of our village down Martin Street to our Alderdice gates of our campus, to the south entrance of our campus, going straight by the Center for Innovation and Collaboration. The project does have $4.1 million in philanthropic funding from the Lilly Endowment. As a reminder, we are pleased to be the highest awarded institution in their community and college collaboration grants, which is really the goal, again, of this project. And so with that, I'm happy to help to answer questions.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ivy Tech. Oh, Mary Jane. All these years. Michaelak. Am I close? Michaelak.
Michaelak, you got it.
Okay, all right.
Rhymes with Cadillac. Remind me to tell you some time about when my husband graduated from college and how they butchered his name on the stage. quite amusing. Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. I appreciate being here today. Ivy Tech is here respectfully requesting your support for a Lafayette Clean Room capital project, which is a critical workforce-aligned investment that positions Indiana to meet the rapidly growing needs of the semiconductor industry. The total project cost is approximately $2.64 million. Indiana has made clear strategic commitment to growing its advanced manufacturing and semiconductor economy. That commitment is now being realized in Greater Lafayette, where SK Hynix has announced a $4 billion semiconductor manufacturing facility expected to employ up to 1,000 workers when the production begins. The project creates an urgent and very real workforce demand that can be met with hands-on semiconductor fabrication training. Ivy Tech is uniquely positioned to meet the demand as the state's primary workforce engine. The Lafayette Clean Room project directly supports this by enabling Ivy Tech to offer semiconductor fabrication certificate within our electronics and computer technology program. It's a targeted employer-driven credential designed to build reliable talent pipeline for the semiconductor sector. The project involves repurposing the existing underutilized space within one building, is square foot neutral, and creates a clean room-like institutional lab sufficient to begin delivering semiconductor fabrication coursework. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Representative Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Mary Jane. Question is XK Hynix helping with this project? Are they putting any dollars into this?
We received money from Ready Grant and Campus Reserves for this project.
I know, but I understand. I know this is about to qualify. So is SK paying for the training?
They're paying for training for individuals, yes.
They are, okay.
Yes.
Along with the Ready Grant, which was dealing with the quality of life.
Yep, about $934,000 in Ready Grant funds and then 1.7 in.
And how much is XK doing?
I would have to get you the information on how much each individual training is.
I think that would be helpful.
Yes.
And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Representative Delaney.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Bachalik. Good to see you. And I have a very specific question. It says in passing, I think, that other companies might be involved. So is this facility open to other manufacturers in the semiconductor industry?
Yes, anybody who needs training in this could come, or companies that need training in this could send individuals to us.
And SK is not yet up and running, the factory,
That's
is that right?
correct.
But so you're going to help train as they get,
Yes,
you'll have people ready for them when they try to open their doors?
yes.
And that's to be commended. And do you have any other companies lined up that might want to use the facility?
Well, at one point, there was another company up there, but they had pulled out. So I don't know of any that are existing at this point.
Yeah, I think we've seen models in the healthcare industry where this addresses some of the problems that individual employers have in paying for training, providing training, and knowing they might not need it next year. And if somebody else comes along, then the state benefits and the community benefits. So I hope you'll advertise this facility to others who are interested. Do people come to this facility from around the state, or are they only from your Lafayette location?
People can come from around the state, yes. We anticipate that there will be people from around the state coming to
And about
us.
how long would the training last?
It's a certificate, so it will be less than a year.
Less than a year. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Purdue, Kendra Leatherman.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Kendra Leatherman, Director of Government Relations with Purdue University. Today, we're here to request approval to purchase the following parcels: 420, 422 Michigan Avenue and 510 Indiana Avenue from Oz Business Property Group. The property was built in the mid-1800s and includes two parcels on 0.24 acres with a 21,800 square foot, three-story building. The structure has been renovated several times and expanded since its construction. These parcels are in the same block as the university-owned Student Center and 401 Michigan Street property in downtown Indianapolis, and the most recent use was for commercial office space. The purchase aligns with our Indianapolis campus master plan and provides a 50-year framework for Purdue and Indianapolis development. The total purchase cost is $4 million and will be fully funded by operating reserves. Happy to take any questions.
Questions? All right, thank you. All right, that was the last of the university projects. We'll start the review items. First up, we have FSSA.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Jordan Stover. I'm the General Counsel of the Family and Social Services Administration. I've got Paul Bowling, our CFO, with me today to present the hospital assessment fee rule. In June of last year, we submitted to this committee a provider tax waiver amendment to amend the hospital assessment fee to go from a patient days methodology to 6% of net patient revenue. That was submitted to CMS, and that was approved last month. This rule amendment just amends the current hospital assessment fee rule to align with the methodology that was in the tax waiver to go from patient days to net patient revenue. Happy to take any questions.
Questions? Senator Garten.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I've got I guess just a couple questions because I need some clarity on the different classes of rural hospitals and how that's what we're talking about, right? Different classes inside. So with the HOF distribution?
There are different rates that hospitals are assessed based on the methodology in the rule, yes.
Depending upon which class the hospital's put into, correct?
So no, the class system that you're thinking about, I think is part of the state-directed payments program. That's not contained in the rule. So these are, the HAF will fund the state-directed payments program, but it is not directly related to the state-directed payments program.
Well, it is directly related if it funds it.
Yes, it funds it. It's just we can't tie them together. CMS doesn't.
No. That's a technicality and a nuance. But my point is that program funds the state-directed payment program, right?
Correct.
Okay. So the class system matters then because depending upon which class a hospital falls into, determined by FSSA, matters how much of the distribution they get, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we agree that this matters and it's connected, right?
Yes, it's
okay.
Definitely the
just
funding
making
source.
Sure, because it didn't feel like that at the beginning. Okay. So one of the things I keep hearing is that there's 2 county hospitals that are still not included in the class 1 that's being discussed. Is that in fact the case?
Paul?
We are working with the county hospitals. We are actually right now working with the Hospital Association to review all the classes that the hospitals are in. We're waiting for feedback from them to see if there's any potential adjustments we need to do to that, because we wanted to make sure we had those correctly aligned before we started making the first state-directed payments. So you're right, we are making sure those are in alignment. So we haven't got that finalized, but we are working with the Hospital Association to make sure we have those aligned.
Okay. So Paul, is it FSSA's position that all county hospitals should fall into that class 1?
There are specific exceptions, right? It's not distinctly like every county hospital is in that class 1. It being a public hospital from that standpoint. So there are some instances there could be a county hospital that would not fall into that class 1.
So my understanding, and again, I'm just repeating what I've been told, so I'm asking you, is that there's 2 rural hospitals that are clearly defined by all federal and state definitions to be rural hospitals that meet those thresholds under those definitions that are not included in class 1 currently. And so I need somebody to explain to me why that is.
Okay, I would need to look at those specific 2 hospitals, Senator, to make sure I totally understand why they're not. And again, since we are going through that review process, we'll kind of make a final determination on all those hospitals.
So, Mr. Chairman, I got to be honest, this is a problem for me with this being on the agenda if we can't answer these questions. So my understanding is that Marion and Reed hospitals meet federal and state definitions to be a rural hospital, but under this proposal, they're not included as rural hospitals, which is directly going to affect their HOF distribution. And I would like some answers for that.
That's something that we'll definitely go back, look at those specific 2 hospitals and get back to you, Senator Garden, from that standpoint. And again, we are looking at that.
Welcome, Liza.
Thank you, Senator. Apologies to jump up here. So with the definition, as Paul mentioned, we're going through what is defined as rural. And so in the definition for Class 1, public rural hospitals include those that are designated as rural by HRSA, the Federal Health Resources Services Administration. And so we've had some conversations around what that designation process looks like, working with federal partners to get those designations when it's deemed appropriate. But that's the definition that the model contemplates on the directed payment side.
So thank you for that. I guess let me back up to the original question. Is that in fact the case currently under the current proposal? Is Marion and Reed not included in the rural definition?
Correct.
Okay, can you help me understand why, if they meet current state and federal definitions of a rural hospital? Well, and let me ask you that. Let me back up and ask that. Is your understanding that they also meet the federal and state current definitions of a rural hospital?
So the definition that the model uses is the HRSA designation. And the HRSA designation used for the classes, those hospitals do not have that designation.
Right, but you didn't answer the first question. You didn't answer if they currently meet federal and state definitions of current. My understanding is they do. I've been told they do. I'm trying to get, I guess I just want to know if that is in fact the case.
So they, and I don't know the state federal definitions, so I don't want to say from the HRSA perspective, the definition that we are using for the purposes of the model, they do not fall under that definition. They may under state and other federal definitions, and happy to have more conversations around that and follow up with those definitions.
Sure.
And kind of reconcile those differences.
I think it's important for the legislature to know as we proceed, and you and I, we spent a lot of time together on this legislation this past session, right? Mm-hmm. And back when we did this, we need to be very clear on which hospitals are included and which hospitals aren't, because as you well know, this is going to directly affect that HOF distribution, which I'm not saying is good or bad, but for the hospitals, and none of these hospitals are in my, neither one of those hospitals are in my district. However, I think the legislature needs to be aware of the second, third, fourth, fifth order of effects of what this looks like. And so that's what I'm trying to understand inside of this. And so, you know, the legislature as a whole, and this has been a bipartisan issue, is focused on how do we improve rural health and rural hospitals in particular, right? And so if we have two that are being singled out that are going to receive less of a distribution, we need to understand what that looks like, how much it's going to affect them, and really understand why those two in particular are being singled out.
And I'm happy to provide that, those projections for those specific hospitals.
Okay. Have you guys met, and I say you guys, has FSSA had conversations with Marion and Reed about this proposal?
Yes, we've got a conversation scheduled with Reed coming up, and we've met with Marion as well. And we've had one conversation with Reed, having another one in the next couple of weeks here. But yes, having those conversations with those hospitals.
And so what was the initial feedback from them?
So it's on the class assignments, the issue that we've raised, that you've raised, and talking through that HRSA designation and what that process looks like.
And so do you have any idea how much financially it would affect the projections of the HOF distribution of those two hospitals?
We have projections. I don't have them in front of me, but I can share those with you.
That'd be great. I think if you could share them with the committee, I think that'd be important.
Yeah, I'll get to that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So Liza, I have an old memo. It was probably from back in March, and it had 12 hospitals, and they felt that they should all been Class 1. Now, Senator Garton's saying, is that list now down to 2? Because there was a list, and the 2 that you mentioned are on this list of 12. And I was given this in a memo that they felt these 12 hospitals should be listed, that were left out of Class 1. So it must have went from 12 down to 2?
Well, Mr. Chair, if I may, let me clarify. I don't know about the 12. My understanding is there are 2 rural hospitals per definition currently that meet rural definition guidelines, federally and state, that would not be included in Class 1. I'm not sure how that interfaces with the original 12, but I'm just talking specifically to these two. Those other 10 may still be included or not. I
Because
don't
the
know.
association gave me listed 12 hospitals they felt should be listed as class 1. Now, Reed and Marion are in there along with 10 others.
Understand.
So I guess I'm trying to see if this list is now
I guess
down
maybe
to 2
those, maybe the other 10, I'm speculating here, don't meet the federal definition or the state.
Sure.
I don't know, but these two, are my understanding, do. And so that's why I'm asking about those two in particular.
And we're happy to take a look at the list and provide the class feedback as well, similar to what we'll follow up with on Reed and Marion.
Okay, thank you. Representative Delaney?
I'm trying to get back to what I think the agenda is, which if I read your memo or the federal memo, we've got permission from Washington to do something. We're trying to change our regulations to meet with the permission that we asked for and received.
Correct. The tax waiver has been approved by CMS, and so it's technically already in effect. So
Okay.
this is just a conforming amendment to match the current waiver.
What if we don't amend our rules to conform with what we agreed with Washington? Is there any impact from that?
I mean, realistically, our rules are an enforcement mechanism, right, that kind of just design the structure. But to the extent that it conflicts with what the federally authorized program is, the rule, in effect, becomes void because it's
Yeah.
being superseded by
That's
federal waiver.
that's my concern. I'm very interested in what happens to these two hospitals, but I don't want to put us out of compliance with a waiver that we asked Washington for.
Correct.
And that seems to be a risk here if we don't keep this on the agenda.
I mean, I would agree. I mean, this waiver just conforms us to what CMS has already approved, this rule amendment. It's just a conforming change that the meat of kind of whether we do the change took place, in that waiver and our presentation last June.
So whether any one hospital or any two hospitals complies is not determined by our conforming to the rule that goes with the waiver we asked for and received.
Correct.
Right. So that decision's separate from our adopting your new rule or permitting your new rule.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And Senator Garten, if I may, to the extent that we would need to tweak the definitions that are contained in the state directed payment preprint, I mean, we could do that, in our negotiations with IHA. If we come to alignment on what the definition is and we need to include those hospitals and those hospitals aren't included in the current definition, I mean, we would just submit an amendment to that preprint to CMS to have that approved to get that going. But that's kind of separate from this rule amendment, which is just the funding mechanism.
Mr. Chair, thank you. So thank you for that clarification. I just want to be clear to the committee. I'm not formally asking that this be removed from the agenda. What I am stating is that I think we should all have a very clear understanding of how this is going to affect downstream rural hospitals in particular. And then, Mr. Chair, the other thing, I think I just got clarification. I think the other 10 on your list are owned by big systems. These two would be independents, is my understanding. Marion and Reed would be independent-owned hospitals. But I'm happy to look at that list and look into it. Sure. Thank you. Thanks again. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the grant request. We're starting with Commission for Higher Education.
Chairman Mishler and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. My name is Courtney Skofsma. I serve as the CFO for the education vertical. I'm here today to provide an overview of the Commission for Higher Education's Talent Search Program application, which was submitted May 1st, for which Indiana is seeking a federal grant of $49 million over the course of 5 years to help launch the Indiana Future Pathways Center. The center would be a statewide advising initiative supporting 20,000 low-income, first-generation, and rural students in grades 7 through 12. The center will provide academic planning, tutoring, SAT preparation, FAFSA assistance, college and career exploration, and targeted support for students facing academic or socioeconomic barriers. A key strength of this proposal will be the leadership role played by Indiana University. IU will operate this statewide Indiana Future Pathways Center, serving as the program's organizational backbone. Their established footprint within Bloomington, Indianapolis, and across their 7 regional centers or campuses uniquely positions them to be able to do this outreach across the state. Through IU, we will deploy regional and rural advisors embedded directly in schools, oversee a hybrid advising system that blends both in-person and virtual supports, coordinate statewide SAT preparation, coordinate virtual and in-person college tours, micro-internships, and individualized plans of action for the students participating in this program. Along with IU, we'll have several other statewide partnerships that will help to deepen this model. Ascend Indiana and the Indiana Career Apprenticeship Pathway will help to connect students to real-world career experiences, from early awareness to pre-apprenticeships and work-based learning aligned to high-demand fields. In addition, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Indiana will serve as a trusted community partner to help recruit students, host programming, and support day-to-day follow-through for these students. Overall, this initiative sets ambitious but achievable goals directed at improving high school persistence, on-time graduation, rigorous diploma attainment, and post-secondary enrollment. All of these objectives align with Indiana's long-term talent and workforce priorities. The total federal request for this initiative is $49,361,257 over 5 years, and the grant requires no state match. CHE will maintain our state-level fiscal and compliance leadership, including hiring an operational grant support manager to help oversee our invoicing, budget reconciliation, allowable costs, and coordination with the IU team. Most importantly, the funds are focused overwhelmingly on direct student support services, advisors, tutoring facilitation, college visits, career-connected learning, FAFSA completion, and the systems required to support these efforts. In closing, this initiative represents an opportunity to build a unified statewide advising system that reaches students early, supports them consistently, and connects them to high-value post-secondary pathways to assist in their success in school, in training, and the workforce. With that, I will take any questions.
Questions, Representative Delaney?
Yes, I'm very interested in this. Is this in some way aligned with our new diplomas and our, what we call pathways in the context of K through 12 education?
It will work in conjunction with those pathways. It will help to ensure, especially as we look at rigorous diploma attainment, it will help to ensure that the students participating in this understand all of those different options available to them, as well as provide those experiences so that they can help to achieve those higher level diploma seals.
And is this restricted to the public schools?
No, it is not.
So you will be providing advisors in both the charter schools and in schools that receive vouchers, is that right?
Yes, we can do that. We are looking to target, our main area is looking to target schools that fit certain criteria associated with low-income family, first-generation students. That's really the key focus here, as well as rural. We have specifically put an effort, a focus on rural as well.
How does a, let's say, a public school in a rural community or in downtown Indianapolis, will they receive some of these advisors and tutors?
So we have already started the process of reaching out to schools to identify who would be interested in possibly participating in this program. We started that during our grant application process, and then that effort will continue, assuming that we would receive this grant. That effort will continue to reach out to those schools where we are seeing areas where there's a lack of advisor capacity, and where we have the type of students that we're specifically looking to target. So yes,
Yeah.
we'll directly reach out to them.
We have a statewide, at least in the public schools where we have the data, we have a statewide shortage of advisors, not a shortage. We don't pay for them. We don't have them. We don't provide them. So we have 600 students often to one advisor. So I'm in favor of having more advisors. But how is this coordinated with the, for example, back to the traditional public school, how do they get an advisor through this program?
So again, we will be directly reaching out to schools, and schools also, as we receive this grant, they'll be able to reach out to us. And then we'll be working with IU to identify which schools we will be specifically targeting and including within our program.
And on whose payroll would these advisors and tutors be?
Those would be on the IU payroll.
Not on the payroll of the school.
Oh, so IU will bring advisors into the school to assist these students that are identified to participate.
Whose employee are these people?
That will be through IU,
So IU is their employer.
yes, for those
Okay.
advisors.
And they might be at a voucher school, and they might be at a charter school, they might be at a traditional school, is that right?
Correct.
Well, good luck coordinating all that. Has the grant been awarded?
It has not yet, no. And to my knowledge, we don't have a timeline of that exact award timeline.
So your purpose here is to get us to consent to your applying for the award?
No, so we have already applied, but because we are looking to hire a new staff member associated with this, under the new state statute, we would have to have a state budget committee review before we would be able to accept the award if it were to be awarded to us.
And will you be spending, let's say we approve this today, will you be spending money as soon as tomorrow to hire this person?
We will not spend any money until we know whether or not we've received this award.
Okay. Okay. And last question, why is this being done by the Commission on Higher Education rather than the K through 12 operation?
So we are really working to build a lot of bridges across both our K-12 and our higher education efforts. Commission for Higher Education already has a very significant outreach effort that they participate in, going into local communities. And so as we look then to also partner with IU, serving as our primary partner here, there were already relationships that existed there. But the ultimate team from the state level perspective would certainly cross barriers between IDOE and CHE.
Is this program a function of the School of Education at IU or some other operation?
No, this would be a separate center that would be established at IU.
So it would not be tied in with the School of Education?
I believe some of the individuals may be connected, but it would be a standalone separate center.
Thank you.
Senator Garten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, sounds like a great program. And again, I want to make sure that I understand. So the federal award that you're going for is how much?
49 million, just
some
over
change.
49 million.
Sure. And you're going to hire one full-time employee to help work through this. And so here's my question. This is a one-time grant, correct?
Yes, it is.
So when we hire this person, are we going to hire them on a one-year contract?
So if we were to receive this award, it would be a 5-year award.
Okay.
So we would have that runway. When we would hire that individual, it would be clear to them that they would be being hired through this grant. And then generally what we like to do would be at the end of a grant period, we would certainly, that individual already is aware that as that grant expires, there may no longer be a position available for them. But we also would evaluate our other needs and see if there would be an opportunity to put them with some other programs. But I can't speak to what that would look like 5 years out.
So I just want to point out, you just highlighted exactly why we legislated that we wanted reporting on federal grants. Because this is how government grows.
Absolutely.
Right.
No, and we work very hard to ensure that anyone that we are hiring through grants understands that this is a limited position and that there is no guarantee of future employment after that.
So this 49 million and some change, it'll be distributed over the 5 years?
It is over 5 years. It's a maximum award of $10 million per year.
Okay. And so when this goes away, I've got to assume that DOE is going to request that the state legislature funded this in perpetuity. Is that a fair assessment or not?
At this point, no, I can't say that that's what we would be looking to do. As part of this grant, we will have an evaluator who will be evaluating the progress that we're making and ensuring that we're, working towards our objectives. But I think we would have to go through that full evaluation to understand, was this a worthwhile effort and did we make the progress we anticipated?
And so I apologize, this next question is going to be a little redundant, but just tell me one more time what these folks are going to be doing.
So, well, I'll break it into two pieces. The state individual that we're looking to hire, so we would have one full-time employee, and then we also do have an outreach person who would be assisting with this as well, a portion of their time. But they would be helping to oversee the process, ensuring all of the compliance requirements with the federal grant, and then working directly with the IU team. At IU, they would be establishing this center where they would have regional and rural advisors who would go out and meet with students directly, assist them in tutoring services, SAT preparation. There would be a larger effort for virtual SAT preparation courses will be a part of this. FAFSA assistance, and then scheduling both virtual and in-person college visits, as well as micro-internships and pre-apprenticeships and other opportunities for career exploration.
So forgive me for my ignorance on this next question, but it's a very genuine question. What are our guidance counselors doing in schools? Because my understanding is a lot of that, at least it used to fall under them. So can you help me understand what's changed?
I think a lot of them still are doing that, but I think what we are seeing, as similar to what Representative Delaney was saying is that we are seeing that they're at capacity or beyond capacity. And so specific to those students who may not always have the opportunity to have these consistent supports, that's where this program would help to step in and try to provide those supports. I think the other difference here is we're also looking to get in with these students starting with grade 7, and then really walk them through those last 6 years, ensuring that they understand all of the different options available to them.
And then just last question, and I don't see it in the report, so there may not be one, but is there a state match at all to this?
There's
federal
no
grant?
state match.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Department of Natural Resources. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the committee. I'm Greg Sarles, Deputy Director and CFO for Department of Natural Resources. We have one new grant on the agenda today, so thank you for the opportunity to allow us to present that. The new grant that I'll present today is in cooperation with DNR's Division of Water and the Indiana Stream and Wetland Mitigation Program, or NSWAMP, as we so dearly call it, and the U.S. EPA Region 5. This grant will specifically aid in the development of a stream quantification tool for the state of Indiana. And by tool, I think we mean an electronic program, a user guide, and a workbook that will take folks from the beginning to the end of the process. What we experienced, I think we're in the 5th year of the program. We've completed 2 projects, and now suddenly the program's taking hold, and I think we have 26 projects in the queue. So it becomes more and more important to be a little more professionalized in our record keeping. We want to be able to provide a standard methodology and improve efficiency and transparency for the program. By doing so, the consultants, contractors, public, and DNR itself will be able to stay by a single standard. This is a one-time grant that provides a federal award of $195,000, $65,000 in state match for a total of $260,000, and we won't be adding any additional staff.
Questions? You just had to say the word wetlands, didn't you? Senator Garten?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you tell me how many states have an isolated wetlands program?
So those are growing. I can't give you an exact number, but I do know regionally they are growing. And that's part of our, I guess, problem, because we're all on different pages and we're trying to consolidate that.
So my understanding is it's 7 outside of Indiana. And the reason we're all on different programs is because those are regulated at the state level, so we will always be on different programs with non-jurisdictional wetlands. All right? You're familiar with jurisdictional and non-jurisdictional? Okay. So here's my question. How much has this program grown in the last 5 years?
I mean, tremendously.
Tremendously.
I mean, we've started, at zero, and as people are purchasing credits, and those funds are held with the Natural Resource Foundation.
And why do people have to purchase credits?
So something has changed. There's environmental damage. There's what I'll call relocation, moving a wetland so that we can construct something. So we construct another wetland in another location.
Mm-hmm. And what purpose does that serve? Because my understanding is if IDEM or DNR comes in and says that I disrupted a wetland, I then have to go abide by the Ponzi scheme of the fee in lieu of program and buy credits. And I very intentionally said Ponzi scheme because that's what it is. I have to go purchase as a private property owner credits. So some consultant who is financially incentivized to tell me that I have a wetland can go purchase land, could be as, I'm located down in Clark County, Indiana, all the way to the southern part of the state. That guy may go purchase land up in Gary, Indiana, and replace that wetland. Is that fair? That happens, right?
I think that does happen.
Mm-hmm. So how does that help? If that's truly a wetland that's disrupted in Clark County, how does that help?
So we're simply replacing one for another.
Okay. So here's a few numbers just for the committee and for folks watching, and I don't have updated numbers, but I would love to see them. So this program came into inception on September 24th of 2018. In the first 3 months of the program, there were 1.8 and some change, $1.8 million worth of fee in lieu of credits purchased. By 2019, that grew to 7.3 million. By 2020, it exploded to 25.8 million. Anybody remember what happened in 2020? State government was shut down. So state government had a program that exponentially exploded while state government was shut down. And let me tell you what happened during that time. We have activists inside of an agency, and we had an activist running an agency at the time who grew this program, hired a bunch of full-time employees, and their task was to go harass private property owners and tell them they had wetlands. I can tell you hundreds of stories from farmers and private property owners that were chastised by either IDEM or DNR employees and told that they had more jurisdiction over their private property than the private property owner did. Who's the largest purchaser of fee in lieu of credits in the state of Indiana?
Don't know.
Well, it's interesting you don't know because I do. NDOT. So we have a government program that charges another government agency, taxpayer dollars, mind you, to go fund another program in a government agency. Only in government would this ever make sense. This program should be eliminated. That department should go away. And I look forward to having those conversations in the very near future. Thank you.
No other questions? Representative Delaney.
Mr. Chairman, I think in fairness to the public, it would be helpful if the senator would give us the name of the person who hired somebody to harass the public and who did the hiring and who's the person that then carried out the harassment. I think we're entitled to know that. It's a pretty serious charge. And if you could identify which state project is being funded by which other state project, that would help too. Thank you.
I'm happy to respond to that, Mr. Chairman. So I can't speak to who hired the employees in the agency. I know there was a gentleman named Bruno Pignat who was the commissioner at IDEM at the time. I will tell you point blank, and I'll say this on the record, after I did this legislation, I received a call from that commissioner, and I've never said this publicly. I received a call from that commissioner at the time who, oh, by the way, was promoted later by the Biden administration and pulled to the EPA. He called me after I did this legislation to tell me that, oh, by the way, Senator Garden, we've had complaints about your private business too, and maybe we should come do inspections down there. To which I responded, you're welcome any day, sir. He did not show up. But I expect to be treated like every other business. So if I got a complaint, folks are welcome. But the reality is, there are bad things that were happening in here. My understanding is, I've met with the new commissioner, there has been some cleanup in progress, and I'm very pleased by that. But to your response, I don't know who hired them, but they were state employees at the time. Either by DNR or by IDEM, I can't speak to that, I'm not sure.
What's this harassment? Asking them about whether they have a wetland and whether they're complying, or is it something more severe than that?
So right now, there are folks, my understanding is if you don't like me as your neighbor, you can call DNR or IDEM and say, I think this guy's got a wetland on his, or I think this guy's dumping oil in the back, and it can be a totally anonymous complaint, right? And these folks now have full jurisdiction to go onto your private property with or without homeowner permission. And I have been told numerous times, dozens of times, by private property owners, scenarios in which they've explained where those employees have said, and in one particular case, a farmer was told to go sit back on his porch, that if they wanted to speak to him, they'd come let him know, and that when they're done inspecting his property, they'll let him know what rights he has left. That's abhorrent.
Well, I don't think we're responsible for manners, but I do believe we have a law that allows wetlands inspections. And so I think this can be worked out, but I appreciate your response to my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to be very clear. Those are not recent. Those were back when we did this legislation. So I want to be very fair about that.
Anyone else? Thank you. Next, we have Department of Workforce Development. Mike Smith.
Good morning, Chair Mishler, members of the committee. My name is Mike Smith. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Department of Workforce Development. I also function as our Chief Financial Officer. Today, I'd like to speak with you about a grant the department applied for. The Indiana Department of Workforce Development's Reentry, Employment, and Skilled Trades, Advanced Manufacturing, Registered Apprenticeships and Training Initiative, or RESTART for short, strengthens the state's workforce by connecting formerly incarcerated individuals and adults aged 25 and older to career pathways via employment, training, and registered apprenticeships in high-demand industries such as advanced manufacturing, construction and skilled trades, and transportation and logistics. It's built on proven models like the HIRE program and supported by strong employer, education, and community partnerships. And RESTART aims to achieve high employment and credential attainment rates, reduce recidivism, and build a sustainable statewide reentry workforce strategy. Outcomes will be tracked by the department's Indiana Career Connect case management system and will be evaluated in partnership with the Indiana Business Research Center. RESTART is a one-time grant with the U.S. Department of Labor for $5.1 million, and approximately $4.3 million, or 84%, will be passed through to regional service delivery partners that already exist across Indiana so that they can apply those services for direct training, work-based learning, supportive services, and employer incentives. The grant does add one FTE as a project director to provide overall leadership for the grant, coordination, oversight, and implementation, execution of all activities through the 42 months of the grant's performance, which will be roughly through the end of 2029 if awarded in July. RESTART has no state match, no third-party match, and no in-kind match. Thank you.
Questions? All right. Thank you. Next is FSSA. Paul?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Paul Bowling, the Chief Financial Officer for FSSA. I have two grants to go over with you today. The first grant is a SNAP fraud implementation grant. This is a one-time grant for the amount of $617,300
$337. The grant funding is to be utilized to improve and expand recipient fraud prevention, detection, and investigation efforts by using procedures and practices to prevent trafficking of SNAP benefits. These new procedures will help to prevent the benefits or help protect the benefits of those eligible recipients. These funds will be utilized to implement a SNAP fraud referral case management module within our current eligibility system. This will help us consolidate workflows, centralize case information, have more efficient fraud case management, and reduce our licensure cost. There is no state match requirement for this, and there is no additional staff that we will need to bring on for this grant.
Questions? All right, going to the next.
All right, the second grant is the Implementing Zero Suicide in Health Systems Grant, which is issued by SAMHSA. This is a one-time grant in the amount of $700,000 per year over 5 years for a total of $3.5 million. The grant funding will be utilized to lead 5 strategies to strengthen the integration of suicide prevention efforts. It'll fund up to 8 health or behavioral health organizations serving rural Indiana residents who are disproportionately impacted by suicide. It'll develop and deliver a zero suicide implementation workshop series. It will provide suicide-specific training for clinical, non-clinical, and crisis providers, and it will provide access to continued learning. There is no state match requirement for this grant either, and there will be no additional staff added for this grant.
Questions? All right. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Next, we have Office of Energy Development, Luke Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Luke Wilson, Indiana Office of Energy Development, or OED, here to review the approximately $4 million grant that OED applied for from the U.S. Department of Energy titled Collaborations Advancing Rapid Load Additions, or CARLA for short. The key facet up front is that this $4 million grant will require no state or local matching money and will not require additional staff for OED. This grant would fund a 1-year technical study evaluating frameworks and methods in which we can minimize electric grid infrastructure costs associated with adding high electric demand customers to our grid. The project will ultimately provide actionable guidance for utilities and states that they can reference for their regulatory frameworks, cost allocation, infrastructure projects, et cetera, to help minimize costs. Ultimately, the goal is to identify opportunities to protect affordability in the electric grid system and maintain reliability as well during a significant time of load growth in our system. Happy to take any questions the committee may have.
Questions? Representative Porter?
Thank you. Luke, you said this is a 1-year grant of $4 million?
Yes, sir.
So what, does this relate to AI data centers or? And you won't have any additional staff, right?
Correct.
So this is 1 year, $4 million. What is that? What are you looking at?
So the study is taking an advanced manufacturer, Ray Besto's powertrain, as well as Lifeline data centers, and then an unnamed hyperscaler, analyzing their actual electricity usage and trying to figure out ways in which we can utilize new technology, demand response to minimize additional infrastructure costs associated with serving them. So, for example, could you identify ways in which you can reduce the power draw during times of peak grid stress, reduce the amount of overall generation you need? How does the grid respond to that? Can you change your investments in your substation distribution transformers? Are there more efficient ways to deploy that, et cetera, and ultimately reduce costs? So the goal is you attach this advanced data analytics to the actual physical infrastructure, evaluate it over a year, and come up with these technical evaluations on are there ways to improve how we're currently implementing these.
Okay, thank you very much.
Representative Delaney?
Who gets the $4 million?
The $4 million goes through OED and ultimately goes out to our technical partners who are working on the actual program. And so the partners were Duke Energy is the electric utility, Advanced Machine Vehicle Innovation Center is a technical partner, Also, the pre-mentioned Raybestos Powertrain, Lifeline, and the hyperscaler are who were evaluating. The other technical partners were LHP Analytics and Operational Assurance System.
And there's what you called an unidentified or unnamed hyperscaler? You won't tell us the name of that person?
I actually do not know the name of that person.
But you know there is such a person who will be part of this group that gets the $4 million, is that right?
Yeah, that's part of the grant application, correct. Well, they were measuring their usage, so they don't get the money. They're part of the program. The money goes to the technical partners, so I'll clarify that.
And who are the technical partners?
The Advanced Machine and Vehicle Innovation Center, the Advanced Utility Solutions, the LHP Analytics, Operational Assurance Systems.
Are any of those state operations, are they tied to our universities, or are these independent companies? Who are these people?
I believe they're independent companies. At the back of the grant application, I believe we talked about individually talked about those companies and what they perform or what they do.
Do we have the grant application in our packet here? In the email?
I can make it available to you,
Yeah,
Representative
okay,
Delaney.
thank you. So one of the utilities you mentioned.
Yeah, Duke.
Is going to receive money?
They are, yeah, because they're ultimately, it's to offset the cost of staff time and efforts for this.
They're going to get money from this grant for the purpose of determining how they should conduct their business, is that right?
Yes, they're looking for the effort, yes, efforts to improve the way to do their business.
Are you working with your organization, it's called the Office of Energy Development, are you working with IURC on this?
There certainly can be a collaboration there, yes.
But you're independent of them?
Yes, that's correct.
And you're not with the consumer counselor either, right?
We are not, no.
Are you open to the possibility, for example, of using wind or solar as a way to reduce some of this burden as the demand goes up? Is that something you're looking at?
Oh, absolutely. I think the governor's been very clear in that he believes in the all above energy portfolio approach.
Okay. So your office works directly for the governor?
Yes, sir, under Secretary Jaworowski.
Okay. All right. And what does Raybestos do?
Raybestos is a manufacturer of automotive transmission-related products, and they have 2 facilities in Indiana.
I take it they're a large user of electrical.
I would imagine so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Is there any representative of the consumer side in this study that you're going to do?
Not immediately, no. So ultimately, the goal is, again, that technical study to figure out, are there ways to improve it? And then you use that study to the aforementioned, the OUCC can cite technical findings in that study in cases before the commission introduce evidence, and the commission can utilize that in analyzing a utilities proposal, for example.
So their report will go to, you say the commission, you mean the IURC?
Yeah, it can be, and the IURC will have access to it, the OUCC will have access to it, and ultimately be used as evidence in a proceeding before the commission.
So this is federal money?
Yes, sir.
So the federal government is giving us money to help private businesses present their claims before the IURC?
No, sir.
That sounds like what you said.
The federal government, so U.S. Department of Energy is funding with this possible $4 million grant, a technical study to evaluate, are there ways to lower electric infrastructure costs associated with adding large load customers like hyperscale data centers?
But those companies will help make this study, and I believe you said the study could be presented to the IURC in support of various rate matters.
I would say the study could be used to find ways to, again, to have more cost-effective infrastructure projects. So yes.
I think you said that the IURC would, in effect, receive some of this. Is that fair?
They would receive the outcome, the study.
Okay. So the state of Indiana is facilitating a federal effort to finance private businesses' applications to the IURC. I just want to understand.
The federal government is financing a technical study to try to figure out ways.
I think I figured out what's going on. Thank you.
Representative Porter.
Thank you. Don't be so enthusiastic. So you don't know who hyperscale is?
I do not know, no.
And the public does not know?
I would not presume so, no.
So you don't know, and some public know because it's part of a code word for data centers, I do believe, okay? And to follow up on Representative Delaney, and not going to reiterate it because he did it quite well from his attorney perspective. So we're going $4 million to say yes, and let Duke have some input. No consumer interests are in here, and then they'll come up with a plan or whatever, and said thou shalt do this in the future. I mean, that's basically what's going on. I'm just putting it in layman's terms.
I would disagree with the shall statement there, sir. Again, this is
okay, okay, may, shall, period, comma, whatever. It's going to be a negative impact. I mean, for consumers, I believe in the future.
I disagree with that statement, sir. It's $4 million for a technical study where we're analyzing usage of these advanced manufacturing facilities, the data centers, the Lifeline data center, the hyperscaler, and trying to figure out, are there more efficient ways to utilize that infrastructure and to ultimately serve those customers, which would reduce costs for ratepayers across the system. So, for example, if you build the electric grid to peak demand, right? And peak demand happens 120 hours during the whole year, but I have infrastructure costs to serve that peak demand that we're all paying for 24/7, 365 days to meet that 120 hours of peak demand. If I can come in with a hyperscaler data center and say, hey, when you are using a gigawatt of power at any given time, if we're in this 120 hours of peak demand, if you can go from 1 gigawatt to 250 megawatts, I no longer have to build my electric grid to accommodate that 1 gigawatt. Instead, I'm able to only build to 250 megawatts in incremental capacity. So that spreads out more cost over the fixed cost of this, or more kilowatt hours sold, megawatt hours sold over the fixed cost of the system, driving down fixed costs for other ratepayers, existing ratepayers, because they're paying off more of the existing system costs of the system. So the technical study, in part, is trying to evaluate, are there more efficient ways or better ways to implement demand response programs to help reduce those costs, to help reduce sort of the infrastructure necessary to serve peak load, and spread out that cost over time through demand response. So, for example, I think about the Indiana Michigan Power has an agreement with Google to do such a demand response program, helping reduce what I&M needs to build out or have in generation capacity for their ratepayers. And in fact, the commission, I think last week, approved a $52 million credit for I&M ratepayers because of data through the fuel adjustment clause that will come back over 6 months. Because of the amount of sales coming through for hyperscalers in their area right now. So if, again, you can drive more costs into non-peak times or more generation or more usage during non-peak times, you can help reduce fixed costs of the systems for everyone else. And that's ultimately the study of the goal, or the goal of the study.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Kadar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. Is the scope of that grant defined by the federal government?
Yes, sir.
So basically, you're applying for an opportunity that is already defined by the scope of the grant, correct?
Yes.
Is there a way to tweak the grant application to incorporate how to lower costs for consumers rather than government engaging in efficiencies between private investors owning data centers and private utilities running electricity through private infrastructure? So it seems that the grant is very focused on, all along, helping mainly private entities maximize efficiencies, which translates into profitability. Now, I appreciate and understand your comment that potentially programming a more efficient distribution of electricity could help lower costs for these businesses. Your theory, as I understood it, by creating more efficiencies, the rates for consumers or consumers or ratepayers will be protected. The concern that I have with that hypothesis is that that's not what's happened. When we looked at the last 25 years of the IURC, and I could be mistaken, maybe up to 1% of my statement that I'm about to make, I don't recall in 25 years that the IURC ever reduced rates for consumers across Indiana. So my point is the hypothesis has been proven wrong for at least 25 years. And for me, as a member of the delegation that represents Marion County and those who are served by AES, I'm extremely disappointed. I'm not sure if you've heard the news that AES got an approval for $71 million of additional ratepayer dollars to be paid. The governor issued a statement saying he's disappointed. Well, guess who appointed the IURC? So I'm tired of people making public, and this is not directed at you, but I'm tired of us playing this game as state government saying we want affordability, we want to help consumers, and we are looking at these opportunities to help for-profit entities. I am sorry, I have no sympathy for Jeff Bezos getting $550 million subsidy in the state of Indiana. And I have no sympathy for any of the other data centers by multi-billion-dollar corporations across America that are abusing Indiana, farmlands, farmers, and communities across the state, so that we have to bend over as state government to make their profits further increase at a time when our legislation in this body to even freeze utility taxes, which would result in $20 a month savings for Hoosiers, didn't even get a hearing because the fiscal was too high. $4 million, I would love to get $4 million from the federal government to help consumers. I mean, why is the Consumer Advocacy Office not included in this? I mean, I'm perplexed that Duke is included. I mean, I can't understand that logic at all. That's like asking an industry to police itself or to help itself using federal dollars. So I understand your limited scope. You're here presenting a federal grant that you want to take advantage of. I'm not arguing against efficiencies, but I'm not seeing the same level of energy, no pun intended, to be spent on protecting consumers. Not by the IURC, not by the vertical that you work with or you work for, none. So can you help me understand whether this grant or what else are you guys doing to help actually reduce utility costs for consumers? Is there any initiative that you guys are working on?
Yeah, certainly. And sir, to answer your earlier question about sort of things that the study is going to help in terms of affordability, one of the aspects of the study that it's supposed to generate is sort of cost allocation frameworks. What are the best ways to handle those costs? And that matters because ultimately, I don't want to take up too much of the committee's time on this. Happy to chat with you afterwards and go more into cost of service rate making. When you're able to reduce the cost of service for utility, that ultimately flows through the ratepayers because we use cost of service rate making. And we're transitioning or layering on top of that performance-based rate making with House Enrolled Act 1002 from this past legislative session to help out and sort of align shareholder incentives with customer outcomes. You want positive customer outcomes to result in positive shareholder outcomes and vice versa. Negative customer outcomes mean negative customer or shareholder outcomes. So part of the study will ultimately generate recommendations on cost allocation frameworks, whether that be large load tariffs, whether that be new customer classes, whether that be upfront payments, capitalization requirements, et cetera, to help minimize long-term risk, because that's the real crux of the issue here is what's that long-term risk? Because we ultimately, as of right now, it's a different setup when you're talking about a Honda plant wants to come into the state. Generally speaking, it's going to take 4 or 5 years to build that plant. You expect, or we have a long history of auto manufacturing being around for decades, and so electric infrastructure is depreciated over decades, and so those match up pretty well with data centers in particular. What we've done, what the General Assembly has done as policymakers is said, hey, there's a lot of long-term tail risk if a data center goes from 2 gigawatts of usage to 1 to 0 in 10 years. And so House Enrolled Act 1007 from 2025 created 2 new pathways to basically tell data centers, hey, you need to essentially put your money where your mouth is and guarantee that you're going to pay off these fixed investments that we're making to serve you over time. And that's what the governor's been very clear on. So that's one aspect of the question I wanted to answer. In terms of affordability, I think the biggest grant program that OED is administering that comes from federal money is the energy efficiency grant. So we have the Indiana Energy Saver Program, which is $182 million, I believe, in grants to homeowners for energy efficiency projects in their home. And so it's the Homes Project and the HERES Project. If I remember correctly, the Homes Project is open to anyone to make home energy efficiency investments into their actual home. So you think about new insulation, windows, help defray the cost of those. The HERES program is for low, moderate income households throughout the state to and help paying off or discounting, depending on your income level, energy efficiency appliances. Because ultimately, an electric bill is rates times usage. So if you can reduce usage, you're reducing overall bills. If you can help, try to bend the rate of growth and rates, you can reduce bills as well. So that's one example for you, sir.
Because I'll be respectful of the time, I have two more quick follow-ups. One, can the grant application be used to expand the scope to study the root cause of the problem, which is monopoly of utilities? We have a utility monopoly in the state of Indiana because of the territorial act that does not allow sharing consumers across different utilities. I introduced legislation last session that did not get a hearing to examine and to allow sharing customers. We have 72 public utilities in Indiana. 72 under the, what is it called, the Indiana Municipal Public Agent, I forgot the acronym for.
Oh, the Indiana Municipal Power Agency?
Yeah, is it?
IMPA.
IMPA. So my understanding when I met with their executive director, we have 72 public utilities across Indiana. The main driver behind the rising utility costs is that because a utility will show up before the IURC, they would ask for 15 to 20% increase knowing that they will not get it. They will negotiate 3 to 5 or 7%, while AES CEO made $18 million in the last couple of years. So my point is the root cause is the monopoly. So I think as you're studying the demand on the grid, we can introduce efficiencies, but I think why not expand the scope to look at what would the impact be if Indiana allows opening the market so that we can deal with the monopoly issue to other actors in the community so that we can actually reduce the cost. Is that an eligible part of the scope that can be amended?
I ultimately don't believe so. So the grant application is still being evaluated by Department of Energy right now. And so ultimately, the U.S. Department of Energy is the one who set that scope in terms of we want to fit it. We know, in addition to hyperscalers, you have the reshoring to manufacturing, you have consumer electrification. So you have a lot of electricity growth projected over the next really 2-3 decades. And the goal of this grant program from US DOE's perspective is how do we accomplish that in a least cost manner to existing ratepayers?
Final question, is the Department of Energy doing any work to regulate data centers? I know that we'll have good discussion during the upcoming legislative session on this, but as far as when these data centers make proposals in their own communities, they come up with this argument that we will not use your electricity. We're going to use our own generators. We will pay for grid improvements. We will do all of that. So help me reconcile what they are saying publicly to gain the support of our communities when here we are looking at a grant application to help optimize the infrastructure so that we can manage the load for advanced manufacturing and data centers. If they are self-sufficient in terms of electricity and water and all of that stuff, what is your concern about their consumption unless what we're saying is that we know for a fact they will use our infrastructure and we better be ready for it?
Yeah.
Which one it is?
Well, it's a very complex question, and I will quip like President Truman that you probably want a one-armed autonomist for this question because I'm going to say it depends. And so number one, what type of state are you talking about? Are you a vertically integrated state or are you a restructured state? That matters. A lot of data centers want to bring their own generation, bring their own power, in which case they could, if they don't connect to the broader electricity grid, can do that now in Indiana and other states, is my understanding as well, and use that. The difference is generally power plants don't operate 20 years without needing maintenance, right? So there's going to be a time when they need backup power. And so generally speaking, hyperscalers want to be connected to the grid for that backup power when they need it. And so that's why you see a lot of movement towards that. To your earlier question of U.S. Department of Energy, I haven't been able to watch it today, but the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission this morning at 10 a.m. was having an open hearing specifically regarding data centers interconnecting to the grid. In my understanding, at least some of the conjecture I was reading last night, is that they're going to force the regional transmission organizations to update their tariffs and basically say how can you better allocate the cost of the incremental costs associated with upgrading the grid for the data centers? How can you make sure the data centers are paying for that? So that's something going on.
Thank you for your answer, Mr. Chair. I just want to conclude with this. I initially wanted to leave this till the end, till the discussion point, but I think it will be redundant and it would waste more time if I say it again later. So I'll just say this. I think recent reports have shown that almost $650+ million have been granted to data centers, with the largest subsidy going to Amazon. And as I said, I am so over this whole thing of us subsidizing multi-trillion-dollar companies in the state of Indiana when 2,500 workers were locked out of their work until recently it dropped to 800. Yesterday, the IURC approved a rate increase for AES consumers. I am sick and tired of us bending over as a General Assembly, giving hundreds of millions of dollars to these corporations while when we introduce our legislation, if it has more than $100,000 fiscal, it has to be rerouted to the Appropriations Committee to be protected. I voted and I argued against House Bill 1601 that gave up to 50 years of sales tax exemption for computing centers or data centers, especially those who have quantum computing operations in them. Whose logic is this that state government gives up to 50 years beyond? I hope all of you will be living in 50 years. Most likely I won't be here. But in 50 years, up to 50 years of data centers getting taxpayer dollars, but they didn't get $20 discount on their electric bill. $20. Which logic, which fiscal responsibility theory on earth can support that Jeff Bezos gets $550 million in the state of Indiana, but the average working family, a family of four making $67,000 in the state, cannot get $20 discount? I am tired of this. And none of these numbers include local subsidies. It is estimated that with property tax abatements across the state, it's $8 billion. $8 billion of subsidies. Ohio governor just put a moratorium on incentives for data centers. I'm not sure if you've been paying attention with Hoosiers showing up at every public meeting concerned about electricity rates, water consumption, polluted water being dumped back in their communities. I am just tired of us not doing what we need to do to protect Hoosiers. And forgive me if I'm coming across as angry, because I am. Because just yesterday, $71 million were just added to my fellow neighbors in my community, that their bills will go up at a time when this state is claiming that we want people to live affordable lives. So whether you consider it venting or complaining, I will bring my legislation back. And I urge my colleagues, this is not Democrat versus Republican, but let's show Hoosiers that we care about them sincerely. When a bill was introduced last session to freeze rates for the next 3 years, it was not heard. When we said let's eliminate utility taxes, it was not heard. And in that committee, I was told the fiscal was too high. And the same bill said, let's deal with the monopoly by allowing crossover consumer sharing between different companies so that they can compete for the consumers rather than consumers being locked forever under which company or one company. So, Mr. Chair, this is not directed at any of my colleagues. This is just my frustration that we are not acting as a General Assembly, and Hoosiers deserve better from us to pass legislation and to apply for grants and do initiatives that actually protect consumers. So thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts on that.
Representative Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All this discussion, to me, it focuses on one key idea. We've got to get a handle on peak demand. The last 5% cost a boatload of money. It does. And for consumers, once we can push that peak demand down, it will make a huge difference. Thank you.
Senator Skotsky.
Yes, this is not directed at anyone at all in any way, but nevertheless, it's going to sound that way. It would be my hope that one day when all of us are gone in this room, that there will be people that will know the things that we have done will have adequately protected our children so that the lives they're leading are protected against the global imbalance that we face when it comes to the security that we want to enable right here and now. So I hope the things we are doing are all going to be there in place, that we will have done our job as those that came before us have done also.
Senator Garden.
Well, Mr. Chair, I could be the only one not to speak. Well, I'm going to convince him, this diatribe. So in a little response to Senator Cadora, I just want to point out the fact that you're not the only one that's filed bills in this space, didn't get a bill heard. I had a bill last year that put a moratorium on rate increases for data center projects that did not get a hearing. What it did do was start a very productive conversation in which a few months after that, I think the first project in the state of Indiana imposed a self-imposed moratorium on a rate increase for that project. You know, I think I can speak for a number of my colleagues when I say we too share some of the same frustrations that you voice and are committed to trying to understand how to lower utility costs for Hoosiers. It's one of the most important issues of our time currently, and I just want to share. So, you know, in my district, we've got one of the nation's largest commercial developments called River Ridge. It's a huge asset to the state of Indiana. There was a meta data center project going on inside of River Ridge currently. Big build out, big project. When that project came to inception, Duke proposed a massive rate increase. And I don't want to misquote it, but I think it was somewhere in the ballpark of a 15 or 16% rate increase. And at that time, they sort of pointed the finger to the data center project inside of River Ridge of why they were requesting the rate increase. I got a call to my Senate office that I will never forget from a single mom who had 4 kids that lives in a subdivision sort of across the street from the River Ridge development. And she asked a very simple question. What am I getting for the rate increase? What do I get for the proposed rate increase? And I said, you know what, let me ask Duke because I'm not sure. And the message or the response that I received from Duke was beyond disappointing. It was actually disgusting. It was, tell her she's getting reliability. And I told them in not so many words that that was an unacceptable answer. And that started a conversation, uncomfortable at times, but a conversation nonetheless, with some of these 800-pound gorillas in the room who are utilities. And I think the legislature should continue to lean in and engage at a very high level in this space, and I'm looking forward to that conversation this next session. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Rep. Snow, Director Laney, myself, anybody else have more questions? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we're going back to Criminal Justice Institute. Doug Hunsinger.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Doug Hunsinger, the Executive Director of the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute. This grant is with the Bureau of Justice Assistance at the U.S. Department of Justice and is to improve community substance use services in local jails. The Institute is partnered with the Indiana Division of Mental Health and Addiction, the Indiana Department of Health, the Indiana Sheriff's Association, and RTI International for this application. The goal is to expand access to evidence-based substance use disorder treatment, including medication-assisted treatment in county jails across Indiana. The total funding amount for that ICJI is requesting from the BJA is $7 million over 3 years. If awarded, the project will run from June of this year through September of 2029. This grant does not require state match funding or additional permanent full-time employees, nor are there any requirements that must be met by the state of Indiana. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? All right, thank you. That was a quick one. All right, next up, we're going to State Budget Agency. I'm going to turn this over to Director Rainey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, fellow members of the committee. I have a request pursuant to the authorization that was included in HEA 1210 during this last session that would allow me to augment the state agency contingency fund by a sum of up to $40 million for for the sole purpose of transferring the funds over to IoT to help close a shortfall there caused by contracts held from FY25. The state's Chief Information Officer, Warren Leonard, is here to answer any specific questions about the contracts themselves or the actual products, but this is a one-time transfer of funds to fix a hole from prior fiscal years. We do not anticipate needing this going forward. With that, I'll take questions, or CIO Leonard. Thank you.
Senator Fedora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So thank you, Director, for that. So
Thank you.
Was this not budgeted in the 2025 budget? Was that missed in the budget process?
Yeah, good question. So IoT is not budgeted in the same as every other agency. IoT does not actually even show up in the state's budget at all. They are fully funded via the chargeback model where they charge agencies for the products that the agencies use. In this case, they were not allowed to charge back agencies for products that agencies were not using. These products were under development, under contracts entered into in prior fiscal years, prior to the current administration, that created what we've been sort of referring to internally as technical debt. And because these products were not deployed to agencies, agencies were not being charged, there was no funding source to support these contracts.
Great explanation. I appreciate that. Thank you for that. If you said it's going to be a one-time thing, but my understanding of IoT, in the future, if they develop tools and the chargeback is not billed to these separate internal agencies, then there could be a chance that we can come back in the future.
So let me address that, and I think I'll also hand it over. So I can't speak to how things were done previously. At one point in time, IoT had built up a pot of money that they were using to fund the development of different products for agencies. In this case, these products have now been deployed. Agencies are using them. Agencies will be billed back. So for these products in particular, and then I will turn it over to Warren, who I think can speak to strategy for contracting going forward to ensure that this does not happen.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And it will be helpful to learn about what the specific tools and the projects that cost up to $40 million. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. So as Chad said, these products were never been able for us to charge back for. We have now submitted rates for FY27 to charge back for these products. So we would eliminate that problem going forward. As detailed in HEA 1001, we are going to be revisiting the new biennium budget to create a budgetary model that be more flexible and strategic in our abilities to be able to deal with these situations. We will also negotiate better contracts going forward when we're in development for new products around innovation so that we don't have vendors charging us full licensing capabilities until we're ready to go into production. But with regard to these three products, they're all in production and leveraged by many, many agencies for critical strategic applications and platforms that service constituent citizens.
Can you just highlight what are the three tools or the project specifically? What do they do?
So the three tools are, one is called MuleSoft. It's a system integration platform that allows platforms and applications to share data. It is a more optimized way to actually build data into applications versus customized APIs and things like that. That's one of the platforms. The other one is something called ServiceNow. It's a classification of products called ITSM, or Information Technology Service Management Platforms. You've heard Service Desk, so that's one of the modules in ServiceNow. It is replacing an antiquated Service Desk platform that we've used in the past. Right now, all the agencies are off that old platform and onto ServiceNow. And the last one is Application Performance Management Platform. This allows us to monitor agency platforms as well as enterprise platforms across the state, giving us better capability to troubleshoot when problems arise as opposed to kind of going into it blindly. But it also allows us to proactively look at application and platform behavior so we can actually prevent problems from happening before they actually arise.
This is very helpful. Thank you. So it seems this deep infrastructure that is supporting the underlying operations of the agency to ensure business continuity.
Correct.
Great. Final question that I have. In terms, or not a question, maybe a comment. When I was the CFO for the city of Indianapolis, we had our IT department also follow the chargeback model. In anticipation of a chargeback model for new development, when you look at your project plan, let's say it's a 24 months, 3 years, 4 years, and you have your final go, no-go launch date, I think you align that with whatever budget cycle that you're anticipating. For example, that $40 million, if we anticipated the tools to be ready in 2026, I assume these, whenever you came up with the project plan, you had a timeline. So maybe to avoid it in the future, you could have probably, asked the General Assembly to include the 40 million in the biennium budget, not the full 40. It could be, whatever is left in 2026, 2027, whatever that portion of that timeline is. So I appreciate you making a comment that for future, deployment of new technology, that you will anticipate those expenses and report. Because to tell you the truth, I was surprised when in a non-budget cycle, and that language was included in a conformity in Senate Bill 1 fixes, and it was not discussed in committee, and I found about it the night before when I was reading the bill. I was shocked to see a $40 million expense in a non-budget cycle in a bill that had, not much fiscal impact directly to agencies. So I appreciate you doing your due diligence for the future. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question for Director Rainey. So the word augmentation means it's going to come out of the general fund, right? The 40 million?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So this $40 million been coming out of that, this is kind of budgeting after the budget, from my perspective. Will that be reflected on the surplus statement? Will the 40 million be reflected when you do the surplus statement in July?
Yeah, it absolutely will. And the 40 million is necessary for us to close the books on this and get IoT back. But yes, this augmentation will absolutely be reflected.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's more be transparent when we talk about augmentation. That 40 million is it's a lot of money coming out of the general fund. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the Indiana Broadband Office.
Hello, members of the committee. My name is Megan Miner, and I am the director for the Indiana Broadband Office. I'm here today to speak about Indiana's Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, BEAD, awards. So the BEAD program, just to level set, is a federal subgrant program with the purpose of building broadband infrastructure to connect all unserved and underserved locations across the nation with high-speed, reliable broadband service. And Indiana received an allocation from the federal government of just over $868 million. So for review, I submitted our office's portfolio of provisional subgrant awards. These awards have been approved by the National Telecommunications and Information Administration and the National Institute of Standards and Technology. With the BEAD funding, our office awarded $483,162,898.55 to 27 different internet service providers across the state. This is 284 project areas that cover nearly 123,000 Hoosier households and businesses that are currently in need of broadband service. In addition to the grant funding, the BEAD program requires all subgrantees to pay 25% of project costs at least. Our own subgrantees far exceeded that number, and we received about just over $384 million in matching funds, and there are no state matching funds involved in this program. Our office's aim is to administer this program as efficiently and effectively as possible. Thank you for having me today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Rich Michael, IEDC.
Good morning. My name is Rich Michael. I'm the Executive Vice President for Land Development Strategy with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. Apologies for Josh Richardson, who could not be here today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the State Budget Committee. The IDC is bringing for review 12 tax credits awards from March 4th, 2026 to June 1st, 2026, totaling approximately $19 million. These awards are broken down by individual award and by county and total incentives offered per tax credit. These awards span 11 counties and are comprised of 2 different types of awards. All awards are performance-based incentives, meaning the IDC will not certify the tax credit in the future unless the company meets their obligations. These projects represent 1,407 new job commitments at an average wage of $28.36 per hour. Thank you for consideration. Happy to take questions.
Questions? Representative Delaney?
Are you also here to talk about the incentives for the data centers?
I probably can't speak to that, but I'm happy to take any questions and get back to you. That's not within my realm of expertise.
Do you know if the agency, if the IEDC is calculating the future cost, the present value of the future cost of benefits to the data centers?
Not that I'm aware of, but I can look into that and get back to you on that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Senator Cadora?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I've requested with the director and prior leadership to add a column when we receive these tax credit incentives to include the return on investment, the year by which we're going to receive the return on investment. I have yet to see this. So for the 12 tax credit incentive awards, do you have details about by when will we recoup our investment as a state?
A great question. I apologize if we've not given that to you. I think there is some confusion between award and certification.
Right.
So these are awards, and so we don't know until the company files and provides evidence that they've actually
hired the people.
those jobs. But I apologize. Yeah, we should be able
I
to
appreciate
provide
your
that.
follow-up on that. And I assume these these awards are performance-based, meaning that if the jobs do not materialize, then beyond that point, we wouldn't be given additional dollars.
Correct. And even if the jobs do, some jobs do materialize, we would, correspondingly reduce what that credit would be then.
Excellent. My final comment of why I deeply care about the return on investment. In the world of finance, the cost of opportunity is extremely important, meaning for every dollar you invest in bucket A, you're making a decision to divest from bucket B. If we give $19 million to create these jobs and they don't materialize, I do understand that we don't pay the dollars for these companies. But the analysis, the good analysis would be, what if we give that $19 million in a different type of investment? Would we have recognized the return rather than invest in something that never materializes? So it's extremely important for me to know the rate and by which year we anticipate the return.
Great point and great question. The one clarification I would say, especially in terms of the EDGE credits, that is giving back them a percentage of their payroll withholding.
Yes.
So without those investments and those jobs in, but yeah, happy to look in those other programs.
It. Thank you. Mr. Chair, I have one question to the Director of OMB, if that's okay, on IEDC. Is that okay? Yes. Director Rainey, the governor announced that Secretary of Commerce is leaving, and he will be getting paid $90,000 for the next 6 months. So that's almost half a year's salary, roughly speaking. So this is the second time that an agency executive or a director leaves after DCS that is getting paid and being appointed as an advisor. This is not something that is offered to any state employees. So it seems that there's something, is that a strategy for the governor's office that when a leader leaves that they get to stay on in the capacity of advisor with no job description and with getting full, and by the way, do they get full benefits and health and pensions while they are advisor, or is it just a salary? So would love to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I can't speak to the governor's office strategy broadly on this. I will say when it comes to the individuals that you were referencing, Director Krupp, former Director Krupp, I believe is still a state employee receiving a state salary plus benefits. I have not seen the contract yet. My understanding is with Secretary Adams, when he does leave his post as Secretary of Commerce, he will be entering into a contract, and so that would all be spelled out in that contract, the scope of the work and everything else.
We were reviewing federal contracts that are $150,000. Now we have two positions that add up to $300,000 just for this year for two individuals. I don't know if benefits are being paid or not, but I think my constituents are raising questions that we have not seen this in state government before, by which people are leaving, getting appointed as advisors and getting paid, and there's no job description that is being published or at least known. So I would appreciate you looking into this and helping us get some answers for us. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Senator Cadora, I've actually asked the same question. I'm looking at the net effect. So when, what we're paying now, if he stays on advisory at $90,000, I'm waiting to see what they pay the new secretary and to see if those numbers equal that or are less. That's where my concern is, and that's the number I'm watching for.
I appreciate it. And in addition to the number, I'm interested in the strategy, because I think my additional concern, not just the pay, but it seems that if you're a top leader, second, first layer of leadership, and you're leaving and you're getting an advisory position, with no job description. That's the piece that kind of I'm concerned about. So I think at minimum, when I reached out and when others have reached out to the governor's office, asked for a job description as recent as yesterday, the answer was, we don't have a job description. So it seems that these decisions are made without HR vetting, without a job description, and it seems the perception, the public perception, is that we're giving favors, we're doing favors for certain individuals to stay on and get paid in the capacity of advisors with no job description. So I think from an HR perspective, that raises some questions. Thank you.
A question for you. Will that contract be public?
Again, my understanding is that he'll be on via contract, and it would be a public contract.
Yeah, so I would hope in the contract where it shows the compensation, it should have, I would hope it would have scope of work in the contract.
I think there
So,
were also some Senate Bill 5 provisions that would apply, I think, to IEDC's contract as well around metrics.
so when that contract's completed, if I could request that it be sent to our members to review that when it's
Yes, sir.
made public? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for? All right, thank you very much. Next, we have FSSA Audrey Frenzel.
Good afternoon. My name is Audrey Frenzel, and I'm Indiana's Medicaid Director, and I'm grateful, not ungrateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to present the state plan amendment for Indiana's Children's Health Insurance Program, commonly referred to as CHIP. Indiana's FSSA Office of Medicaid Policy and Planning is proposing to submit a CHIP SPA state plan amendment to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services to align Indiana's CHIP program with federal Medicaid and CHIP requirements related to incarcerated pregnant women and youth. This CHIP SPA removes language excluding incarcerated pregnant women and youth from being enrolled in CHIP coverage, consistent with federal requirements prescribed in Section 205 of the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2024 and continuity of care expectations. This SPA would allow a retroactive effective date of January 1st, 2026. Operationally, Indiana has already been suspending and rapidly reinstating coverage for incarcerated pregnant women and youth. The operational intent exists across programs, but the federal documentation authority under CHIP necessitates the submission of this state plan amendment. Specifically, this CHIP SPA fulfills CMS's requirement to submit a state plan amendment by June 30th, 2026 for this particular program. While Indiana's Medicaid state plan does not mention terminating eligibility due to incarceration, the CHIP state plan currently states that children in public institutions are excluded from CHIP coverage. Rather than terminate coverage, Indiana suspends coverage during incarceration in keeping with federal parameters. The SPA provides the necessary revisions to align with federal regulations regarding the exclusion of incarcerated pregnant women and youth. Thank you.
Questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have FSSA again, Sarah Sailors.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I'm Sarah Sailors, the Director for Indiana's Family and Social Service Administration's Division of Mental Health and Addiction. With me today is Kelly Welker, my Deputy Director and Chief of Staff for DMHA. We're here to present for the committee's review the Indiana Family and Social Service Administration's Opioid Settlement Fund Distribution Plan. This is for 2027 and 2028. This is Indiana's third statewide plan for distribution of state abatement share. The current opioid settlement framework mandates an equal split of settlement proceeds between the state and local units. Statute further prescribes the distribution of proceeds into 4 accounts. 15% state unrestricted, to be used by the state for oversight and administration of programs for treatment, education, recovery, and prevention. 35% abatement for the state to be used for treatment, education, recovery, and prevention. 15% local unrestricted funds to serve as reimbursement to cities, counties, and towns according to a weighted distribution. That formula identified in the settlement documents that accounts for opioid impacts in those communities. And then finally, a 35% local abatement for programs of treatment, prevention, and care that are best practices as defined or required by the settlement documents or a court order. The report has been prepared pursuant to Indiana Code, which requires Indiana Budget Committee review of the distribution plan for the state abatement share, representing 35% of the settlement proceeds that are allocated to FSSA. Additional information on the opioid settlement plan and litigation information can be found on the Attorney General's website. As shared in the executive summary submitted to the committee, the status of the State Abatement Fund as of April 30th, 2026 includes total revenue to date of $128,055,947. Total expenses, obligations, and transfers to date are $58,441,109. Current fund balance includes $69,614,838. A summary of the 2027-2028 funding plan for the 35% abatement fund includes $67.1 million in funding. $2 million for local match opportunities, $20.4 million for treatment services, $20.6 million for prevention efforts, $15 million for recovery services, $5 million for enforcement and justice system initiatives, $3.1 million for workforce and employers, and then $1 million for reporting. The distribution plan, which reflects extensive deliberation and incorporates feedback from internal and external stakeholders representing all regions of the state, is designed to complement existing funding streams available to the state. It is important to note it is not the sole source of funding for initiatives identified in the proposed plan, and it does account for operational capacity of our state agencies to execute these efforts. I'm going to now provide a detailed review of each funding category. First, our local match opportunities, which accounts for $2 million in funding. DMHA will offer one-time funding to local governments who have received local opioid settlement funds to support justice system coordination and transportation, requiring applicants to match funds using their national opioid allocations. Funding will be issued through FSSA's request for funding opportunities. These initiatives aim to promote innovation, collaborative, community-driven, cross-sector responses to substance use disorder. All applicants must provide matching funds from the local distributions from the National Opioid Settlement Fund. We will monitor the total amount of local match contributed and the number of individuals served. Since offering match opportunities in our last plan, the local units of government have experienced a 20.6 or 26.7% increase in the utilization of their funds. Under treatment, we plan to spend $20,400,000. These treatment investments will expand care for pregnant women and children, improve access for adolescents, strengthen infectious disease linkage to care efforts, and broaden availability of medicated-assisted treatment. They will also help providers implement the updated American Society of Addiction Medicine, or ASAM, criteria, improving consistency and quality across the treatment system. We'll be monitoring such things as the increase in access to care, engagement in evidence-based treatment, and fatal overdose deaths. After recording 2,130 overdose deaths in 2023, the state experienced a 24% decline in 2024, with deaths falling to 1,618 that year. Prevention accounts for $20.6 million in funding. The prevention initiatives and investments will strengthen early identification and community support by partnering with faith-based organizations, expanding programs for at-risk groups, and scaling screening, brief intervention, and referral to treatment in colleges and certified community behavioral health clinics. They will also enhance school-based prevention, sustain outreach teams, and improve safety through a more robust prescription drug monitoring program. These programs will monitor opioid prescribing trends, enhance early identification and intervention, along with community outreach and engagement. Indiana has seen a 4.8% reduction in opioid prescribing from 2023 to 2024. Recovery, $15 million in funding. These recovery investments will sustain community peer-based support through organizations such as regional recovery hubs and recovery community centers, while expanding stable recovery-focused housing in partnership with Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority. These programs will increase the number of recovery beds added across the state and increase recovery stability. Efforts to date have increased capacity by 414 recovery beds across Indiana. Enforcement and justice will see $5 million in funding. These investments will strengthen public safety and reduce recidivism by expanding treatment and recovery supports for individuals in the justice system, helping improve community care during and after incarceration. We will increase treatment engagement with the justice system, continuity of care, and monitor recidivism reduction. Through previous efforts in state fiscal year 25, we served 1,950 individuals in 32 jails across Indiana. Workforce and employers, $3.1 million in funding. Workforce investments will expand training for the prevention specialists, grow the peer support workforce, and strengthen the broader behavioral health workforce. Together, they build the capacity needed to deliver consistent, high-quality prevention, treatment, and recovery services statewide. We will increase the number of individuals trained, certified, or credentialed to provide behavioral health and peer support services across the state. Indiana has seen a 140.6% increase in their peer support workforce since utilizing opioid settlement funds to support those initiatives. Today, we have 1,833 peers statewide. Reporting accounts for $1 million in funding. Indiana code requires all entities receiving opioid settlement funds to monitor expenditures and submit annual reports to FSSA, which is responsible then for consolidating those submissions into a comprehensive report for the Indiana General Assembly. To ensure accurate and consistent reporting across the 648 local units of government, FSSA engages in a third-party vendor to maintain the reporting platform and provide technical assistance. Annual reports can be found on the Commission to Combat Substance Use Disorder website. The remaining funds, Indiana code allows for the funds to be invested by the treasurer of the state to maximize the long-term impact of settlement funds. Our intent is to invest unused abatement funds and new abatement funds that are deposited into a dedicated fund for the duration of this plan. Secretary Robe does regret that he is not able to be here today. However, he has asked that we share with you his thoughts concerning the current statutory distribution. Now that we have a few years of experience tackling distributions, both at the state and local levels, he believes the time is right to use this data to inform a distribution approach that will drive better results for Hoosiers impacted by opioid use disorders. Thank you.
Any questions? Representative Delaney.
I wanted to focus on the part about recovery. Does this settlement fund provide money for these residential recovery centers?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the
Does
question?
the opioid settlement fund that you're discussing provide funds for residential recovery centers or facilities?
So this particular funding will go for recovery residence housing. So this is typically, excuse me, where individuals go after they may have a stint in residential treatment. And then our regional recovery hubs and recovery community organizations hire peers that will walk alongside that person to get them into services.
This is
that they need.
after they left a recovery center, for example.
It could be, or those peers and those regional recovery hubs can get them into that residential treatment if needed.
Well, on the residential recovery facilities, do you fund those centers?
We do have other funding that does support that through our substance abuse block grant, if
And
they're
what-
not eligible for
What's
Medicaid.
the daily rate you pay these centers for per person who stays in the facility?
We match the Medicaid rate.
And that is?
I believe for 3.5, that just recently increased about $541 a day. And then 3.1, which is a little lower level care residential, is at, I want to say about 200 and something, but I can get you those exact numbers.
And what's the success rate of people who you pay $500 and some a day for and go to a recovery center?
We would have to get you some exact numbers of if they have returned to treatment or how long they have maintained their sobriety.
Do you have a policy as to how often an individual can go to one of these centers at $500 a day?
So we are typically the payer of last resort, so they would have to exhaust other funds through Medicaid funds. Also, if they're eligible for Recovery Works, if they have any justice involvement, those would be the payers first.
So assume we're paying, will we pay once, or how often will we pay to send them to a center?
So there is a cap for Recovery Works funding. For Medicaid, I don't know if they have a specific cap on
Is that a per individual cap or a cap of the overall funding?
per individual cap.
Per individual, thank you. I'd appreciate if you could send me that information as to how often an individual can receive residential recovery services.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely, Representative.
I'm H86.
Can
That's my
you
nickname.
send it to the budget agency for them to distribute to the entire committee, please?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I apologize.
That was a request to your colleague down there.
Doing it the wrong way. Well, I apologize to you.
That was me backdooring you.
Representative Porter, you had a question?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On slide 3, in regards, you have 15% state unrestricted dollars, 8.1 million. Where is the state's restricted dollars going, unrestricted dollars going?
So part of that funding goes to support the administration of the staff to administer and do the grants and contracts for the $67.1 million, as well as we do provide some funding for other, a lot of our projects that we do, we like to do braided funding, so it's not.
I
so
do what? I'm sorry.
Braided funding, so we may use some federal funding along with state funding, so it's not just one sole funding source. So this will help create some sustainability and not create any cliffs, because our intent is to build infrastructure and then make self-sustaining programs.
And are you increasing your staff in regards to this?
No, we currently have all staff that we need to
You have all your
support.
staff in place to do this?
Yes.
And that's 8 million, that's a lot of creativity there.
We have a very dedicated and wonderful staff.
Yeah, I don't doubt that there's state workers. Do you have any private contractors doing this? In the unrestricted, you have private contractors in regards to the state's unrestricted portion?
No, not for the state unrestricted.
Okay.
Yep, that's all in-house.
So you're not contracting with anybody else outside with those unrestricted dollars?
Correct, it is all state employees that are doing that work with the unrestricted dollars.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Department of Education, Brenda Earps.
Good afternoon. My name is Brenda Earps, and I am the Senior Director of the Office of School Finance for the Indiana Department of Education. I have with me today Mr. Mitchell from Thea Bowman Leadership Academy. Indiana Code 2043-4.3.5 allows school corporations to request an adjusted count of their eligible pupils when their reported average daily membership, or ADM, does not accurately represent the students they serve. When the total statewide adjustment increases tuition support by more than $250,000, Budget Committee approval is statutorily required, in addition to State Board of Education approval. The State Board of Education approved these petitions at their May meeting. This year, several issues contributed to inaccurate ADM counts: missing or incomplete attendance submissions, timing conflicts between school corporations, incomplete data for recently transferred students, and virtual misidentification caused by inclement weather prior to spring count day. If you'll remember, it snowed significantly almost a week before count day. With the exception of the weather issue, these issues are not uncommon. The issue this year is simply a matter of volume. The petitions before you represent corporations affected by these issues. The largest adjustment comes from Thea Bowman Leadership Academy with 70 students and a funding change of $305,082.40. 17 other school corporations totaling $147,561.30 are also affected. In closing, this process has been in place since the 2022-2023 school year and usually involves small adjustments that do not require your review. Furthermore, these petitions represent students that should have been counted in the February 2026 ADM count, and if they had been included, then this request would not be before you today. The existing fiscal year 2026 tuition support appropriation is more than adequate to accommodate this addition. On behalf of the Indiana Department of Education and the 18 affected school corporations, I respectfully request approval of the ADM petition adjustments presented today.
Well, Dr. Mitchell, I thank you for making the trip. That was my request.
Okay.
And the reason I requested that is because, number one, yours is way out of line from the others. And number two, it was brought to my attention that this is a regular occurrence for Theo Bowman. Like you're always making errors and things like that. So I wanted you to come here and explain to us why you consistently have a problem with this.
Okay, well, first I would like to say that I've been at Theo Bowman for just about a little bit over a year and a half. Theo Bowman was under a management company for the past 6 years. Over that past 6 years, there's been a number of issues that we've been correcting. And correcting of those issues, the local school board did vote to remove the management company and bring in local leadership. So I am representing that local leadership. In order to really put those things in order, we have put various things in place. Theo Bowman was actually operating with very few, I'm going to say, guardrails. There was an absence of significant policy that would have kept things in order. So we have contracted with Neola and been working with them for the past, since I've been in place, to put the necessary policies in place. I am a systems guy by trade. I mean, this is what I put systems in place. And I have added some project management principles to it. So now we have various charts and administrative guidelines to ensure that this doesn't happen again. On this past year, a number of that, this is not up there, so I'm looking, but this past year, what happened, we were using Power School, and because there was really no particular systems in place for those counts, I believe that the person that was in charge of that waited till the last minute to actually get that done. And of course, you can't predict the weather. And in Northwest Indiana, we had significant inclement weather. 100% of our students are picked up and dropped off by parents. We have no no transportation. So that accounted for some of those students being out on that count day. And so therefore, there was a huge anomaly with that, where most corporations, public schools, they do have bus transportation. We have no bus transportation, so we relied upon parents, and of course, parents had issues at that time. But again, I'm not making any excuses or any excuses. We have put processes and procedures in place so this does not happen again. I've shared those process procedures with the Department of Education. I've also shared them with my authorizer, and we have put those policies in place so that all of my faculty and professional staff knows how to govern themselves going forward. So we don't anticipate this happening again.
And what's your total ADM count?
My total ADM was 717. I believe we're at 721 now.
Yeah, because what caught my attention is the 70 students, and I saw in there, a lot of those schools are up north where the weather's bad.
Yes.
And I saw Penn that has well over 10,000 students, and they had 4. So your percentages aren't very good.
Right.
So that's the concern I have. And so I just wanted you to come here and kind of explain, as you did, what you have in place, because I really expect, I'm hoping and expect not to see you here again.
No, I don't want to be here again, not for this. Maybe we'll come for asking for another school or something like that, but you won't. We have put processes in place so we won't have to be before this body again.
And I know it was a long trip. I appreciate making the trip, but I think we needed to hear from you.
Yes.
The changes that you're going to make.
Yes.
So I appreciate that.
I appreciate that.
Any other questions from the committee? Representative Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Doctor, who's the authorizer?
The authorizer is Calumet College of St. Joe. Calumet College of St. Joe.
So it's Calumet College of St. Joe. So shouldn't they have been on this, assisting in regards to this or knowing what was going on? They would not have?
No.
They just authorize and get paid to be the authorizer? That's it?
Yeah. And basically what
so there's no accountability by them in regards to what happened with Theo Bowman Leadership Academy?
No. The ADM count happens on a day. And on that particular day, we had a number of students out. And of course, we use Power Schools, which feeds into the state system or whatever. So when it showed that those students were not present, they were not accounted for. And because they were not accounted for, we couldn't get any credit for them. And so it was just, I'm going to say, a culmination of just things that happened on that particular ADM count for February. Our September ADM count was nowhere near this egregious.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor.
Senator Garten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So here's my disclaimer before I ask these dumb questions. I've never been on Education Committee. I don't desire to be on Education Committee, but I do desire to ask a few questions about education. So the numbers here that we're trying to correct with regards to ADM, let me back up. We do 2 ADM counts a year, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. October and February.
October and February. Is there any school in the state of Indiana, and I understand it's a big question, that doesn't know how many students they have every day?
I would certainly hope not.
Me either.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to wrap my head around why we count students twice a year, and we pay off of these 2 fixed static dates instead of doing. So with the 2 ADM counts, do we do 2 distributions as well?
No, we distribute 12 times a year on a monthly basis. We use an estimate for the July through October payments. We true up in November and December, and then we basically use the October as an estimate for February until we true up in April.
Is there any reason that we shouldn't just do an ADM count monthly and pay monthly? Wouldn't that be more accurate?
I'm afraid the schools would hate me if you suggested that, if I suggested that.
Well, from a matter of process.
Well, it's a lot of work on the school side. I suggest that every school, frankly, so they submit data basically starting when their school year starts, right? And I suggest that once the dust settles from school year starting and they know who's really in the building and who hasn't shown up, that they start looking at their reports. They are submitting data to us. They should be looking at those reports and looking closely at, okay, these are the kids I expected to be in attendance, or, I expect to be on the report. In some schools, that can take a lot of work, depending on the size of your school. In some schools, it probably doesn't take that much work. But then they need to be checking on a regular basis, and that is what I strongly suggest that they do. And I actually give them tips for how I would do it if I was in a school.
So that's where I get a little confused. I'm confused how it takes a school more work to know how many students they have every month instead of twice a year, when we just agreed that they should know on any given day how many students they have.
So count day happens on October 1st. They have 2 weeks to clean up their data. So then in essence, we would be creating a 2-week cleanup period every month. And so that, I think, might be a burden on the schools. Because there are also counts, for example, on December 1, they count their special ed students. So then we want them, after the October count closes, to focus on their special ed counts. Then after December 1 occurs, we want them to focus back on their count for February. We also have months where there are no school days, or July, for example. August can be a little hard for schools because they're just getting started, and who's actually showing up in that. So it's an interesting concept.
No, I get it. All that makes sense to me. I guess I just go back to again, what I contend. If we agree that schools know how many students they have every day, there's no reason we don't know how many they have monthly.
Right.
Which means there shouldn't be any more work because they're already doing that. They already have those counts.
Theoretically, yes.
So I'm trying to understand where the increased workload comes from. So that's part of the question. My next question is, with the truing up of these number of students across these, give me an idea of, and the doctor shed a little bit of light on this. Give me an idea of where these students come from. How are they missed? Are they at another school? Are they?
So in some cases, there's a conflict between two students. We tell all schools that if there's a conflict, then nobody gets to count the student. So for example, this actually did occur last year. We had a non-custodial parent remove a kid from a school on count day. The school exited the student like they were supposed to, not realizing that it was a non-custodial parent. And then the non-custodial parent enrolled the student in another school. By the time that all got sorted out and figured out and who should really have the kid and everyone agreed, it was too late in the 2-week cycle. Both schools were reluctant to change their data because they were afraid of breaking something else. So we went through this type of process to get that corrected. So mainly these are conflicts where a kid moved probably pretty close to count day.
Sure.
That's actually the Evansville situation. The students came in right before, or changed schools within Evansville during that, I called it Snowmageddon, for lack of a better word for it, right when everyone was virtual, right before count day due to snow. So it's usually a conflict issue.
Well, so that's a great segue into my last question. So if these students are in theory rolling off of someone else's roll, are we clawing back the money that those schools got paid for the student that now we're truing up at the new school?
So what happens when we look at these, we make sure that no other school got paid for them.
Got it. Okay.
Before we say we'll pay this school.
So
for it.
in these scenarios, then, like for instance at Elkhart Community Schools, 7 students didn't get paid at some other school before they came to
No,
Elkhart.
they got paid nowhere else.
Understood. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Something, Representative Porter, you brought up the charter authorizer. So are you in good standing with your charter authorizer and have a good relationship with your?
Yes, we have a very good relationship with our charter authorizer. The management team does, yes. Yeah.
And I understand when a lot of Senator Garten, he has some good questions about the smaller numbers, where they fall through the cracks. And the reason you're here is because your number is so large and you're always there. you know, it's not just one or two for you, it's numerous students every time. So that's why you're here. But I can understand why you have some adjustments. And you guys wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for Theo Bowman, because you would have been under the threshold.
Exactly.
So we wouldn't never even seen this. So understand the complexity of it, but I just think you guys need to do better, and I'm glad to hear you've got some things in place. So, any other questions? Representative Porter.
I think more of a statement, and Representative Delaney is on education now. I served on it for 18 years. I did my sentencing for 18 years on education. In regards to the count date, during that time, it was kids were leaving from one school, going to another particular charter school, and they weren't getting counted. They would get counted at a charter school and then wind up in another public school later on. I think if you do it quarterly, I think that's palatable. Monthly, I think it's kind of taxing on the school corporations, and it's like giving them, putting them restrictions on them to do something it's virtually impossible to do within a timely manner. So the issue was that because the mobility factor, and we don't really talk about it a whole lot, but mobility factor of our students moving around from housing to jobs, et cetera, is very high in certain parts of the community. And I think that those factors ought to be also indicated and as we talk about this as we go forward. And that's my comment, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the committee. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Again, thank you for making the trip. Really appreciate it. We needed to hear from you, and thank you for your report.
Thank
there.
you.
So, next we have the Northwest Indiana RDA, Sherry Ziller, and I see Mayor Melton here for some of these as well.
You know, lots of support today. Yeah, this is how we roll. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, for the opportunity to present to you today the Lake County Convention Center, the Gary Metro Center Station, and the Blight Elimination Program. I'm Sherry Ziller, President and CEO of the Northwest Indiana Regional Development Authority. With me, we have Mayor Melton, City of Gary, and we have Jim McGough, Indiana Public Finance Director. Lots of folks in the audience, but I do want to point out Lake County Commissioner Kyle Allen, and then we also have Phil Talon, President and CEO of the South Shore Convention and Visitors Authority. Today, I will be presenting the Lake County Convention Center project first, and then I will pause for any questions prior to moving on to the Gary Metro Station project and the Blight Elimination Program. So just as a brief reminder of why I am here today, so Senate Enrolled Act 434, 2023, authored by then Senator Eddie Melton, allocated new state wagering tax revenues from the Gary Hard Rock Casino to the Lake County Convention Center, the Gary Metro Center Station, and the Gary Blight Elimination Program, which are very transformative projects in Northwest Indiana for the city of Gary. To access those state funds, which will match local dollars, state budget committee review is required. So again, I'll start with the Lake County Convention Center first. I'm going to pause for any questions before moving on to the other two projects. So prior to today's review, there were other statutory prerequisites that had to be met first. So I'm pleased to say that each of those prerequisites have been met. First was the RDA contracted with Johnson Consulting to conduct an update to the previous feasibility study that we did. This update was included in our submission to the state budget agency. The Lake County Commissioners then released an RFP, and they selected the City of Gary and Hard Rock Casino of Northern Indiana as the location. Gary's submitted proposal was also included in our submission to the state budget agency. A local match by the City of Gary, $5 million has been deposited into the state fund. And just similar to the process established for the two recent NICD rail projects in Northwest Indiana, the RDA negotiated a governance agreement with the city of Geary. The governance agreement establishes the processes for the effective implementation of the project. The governance agreement was also included in our submission to the state budget agency. In addition, we also have a revenue deposit agreement that was established to control the flow of funds. That revenue deposit agreement was also included in our submission to the state budget agency. The graphic on this slide demonstrates the responsibilities of each of the parties involved and the flow of funds. I would like to point out that all the funds will flow through a trust account held by the Bank of New York. The city of Geary will be responsible for contracting with the vendors, and the RDA will have the oversight over contracting and the payment of the invoices. The City of Geary publicly procured a design-build contract awarded to AECom Hunt Powers, which is a joint venture to design and build the convention center. Assuming a favorable review today, that design would commence very quickly to be completed by late 2026. Then construction would begin in the spring of 2027 and then completed by the fall of 2029. The contract with AECom Hunt Powers is a not-to-exceed contract of $135 million. So now I would like to invite Mayor Melton to say a few words about the project.
Thank you, Sherry, and thank you, Senator Mishler, Chairman Thompson, and to all of my former colleagues and friends on this body. It's truly an honor and a pleasure to be here today. I want to thank the RDA and I want to thank the IFA for their partnership and collaboration. I want to thank the Lake County Commissioners for their support, for selecting Geary as the location for the convention center. And also my team that's with me today, my Chief of Staff, Ellis Dumas, Corey Sharp, who leads our planning and development, and Brandon Comer, who's our financial advisor. This project, as I mentioned during my time as state senator, is truly going to be transformational. Partnering with the Hard Rock Casino, we want to thank them for their leadership and support of partially funding this with the city of Geary. And the funding that was originally used is those wagering taxes coming from the Hard Rock that was increased, I believe in 2026. I think this is the first year is going towards this project and effort. So we made our first commitment of that money coming of our revenue, of our local local revenue from the Hard Rock for our contribution for this first year. So, and Hard Rock will be giving their portion to help this effort. So all hands on deck. Again, we are in collaboration working with the commissioners and their support. I want to thank Commissioner Allen again for being here today. And as we talk about the other projects and efforts, I'd love to kind of share some of the highlights and progress that's taking place in the city of Geary. Hard Rock, again, has committed to building a hotel adjacent to this convention center, so I do want to make mention of that. With all of the new exciting news that's taking place in Northwest Indiana, I think this is going to add on to what's already in the midst.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, turning over to the financing of the project now. So the project will be financed with 20-year bonds issued by the RDA, sold to the Indiana Finance Authority. The bonds will be issued in the spring of 2027, and the projected bond sale will produce sufficient funds to provide $136.5 million of project funding. A financing scenario was included in our submission to the state budget agency. I would like to thank the Indiana Finance Authority for their assistance, and I would welcome Jim McGough to say a few words about the proposed financing plan.
Thank you, Sherry, Mayor, Chairman. The IFA has reviewed the proposed plan of finance, and we're comfortable that the way this debt is being structured, that it will generate the needed proceeds to meet the not-to-exceed contract already executed.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, so then the final slide here for the convention center lists the many actions that have been taken to ensure that the schedule and budget oversight. So the design build contract contains liquidated damages to be paid by the joint venture for failing to meet substantial completion. And in addition to that, an 8% contingency is built into the overall project cost. Again, all the invoices and contracts will be approved by the RDA, and all invoices will be paid by the trustee. The lease payments are statutorily collected, and any excess construction costs will be funded by the city of Gary. So I'd like to pause now to see if there's any questions for the convention center.
Questions? Representative Delaney?
I'm consoled to see that bond counsel is also here. Mr. Shanini is back there. So what are the revenue sources for this particular convention project that will fund the bonds, the payment on the bonds?
Do you want to, Jim, do you want to? Yes.
Thank you. There will be $5 million each year contributed by the city of Gary, and then $5 million will come out of the state's distribution of gaming revenues coming from the Hard Rock that will provide $10 million a year in debt service. So we will issue the debt with the anticipated receipt of the $10 million for 20 years to pay off the debt. So it's all gaming revenue backed.
Directly or indirectly, so some of it flows through the city. The city gets a contribution, then pays it into this program. And the state's portion is, define that a little further, the portion from the state.
State's distribution of gaming revenues from the city. So
from that specific casino, the money that it pays into the state,
yes,
some of that is directed to this project.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. It sounds like it'll work. Thank you very much.
Other questions? All right, next project.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now on to the Gary Blight Elimination Program. So in 2023, the RDA pre-funded the state's $6 million match to Gary's $6 million in funding. In coordination with the city of Gary, the RDA has administered the program and the fund. It's anticipated that over the next 12 months, that initial $12 million of blight elimination funding will be depleted, representing significant elimination in blight in downtown Gary. And as a quick update here, on May 1st, the RDA, we released an RFP for the demolition of the former Gordon's Department Store, the Gordon's Department Store Annex, the Genesis Convention Center, and the Genesis Convention Center parking garage. 10 bids were received, and at the RDA's June 15th Board of Directors meeting, we did award the contract to McDonough Demolition, and the winning bid was for $2.87 million, and negotiations to finalize the contract and move forward with demolition are underway. I will ask if Mayor Melton would like to say a few words about the Gary Blight Elimination Program.
Sounds good. I'm really excited about this project. When I came to this body during the Senate and I expressed my concerns about just blight in general, we know that the city of Gary has nearly 7,000 abandoned structures. That's going to be about $80 million to address that total package of demolition that has to occur. And we're talking about over 50 years of deterioration of structures, some residential, some commercial. When I came into office, we've been very intentional on utilizing our federal dollars more wisely, our CDBG HUD money, to kind of raise those dollars. So with the partnership that we have established with the RDA, with the General Assembly, giving us the $6 million match, the Hard Rock Casino, my first year in office, gave us $3 million out the gate. In the city of Gary, we used $3 million of remaining American Rescue Plan dollars. So that $12 million was met very quickly. So the structures that are being demolished are structures within the Transit Development District. We see great potential in downtown Gary. We've partnered with Notre Dame University that has helped us design what the future of downtown is going to look like. So we have some strategy and some plans to move forward. We've been awarded with the partnership again with the RDA, READY dollars. I believe about $15 million of READY money. 5 of that are going toward additional blight. We have to start moving now into neighborhoods because we have a lot of single-family homes that need to be demolished. So we're trying to do the best that we can as a city, and because of these type of partnerships, we're able to kind of scale faster and make Gary site ready for future growth and development. So again, thank you for your support in this effort.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so the RDA does request the release of the initial $3 million to reimburse the RDA for the initial pre-funding. I'd like to pause if there's any questions for the blight
Questions from the
elimination program.
committee? Continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lastly, the Gary Metro Center Revitalization Project is off to a great start as well. The governor did appoint Troy Woodruff as chair of the Gary Metro Center Station Revitalization Board. Phil Talon, South Shore CVA, is also a board member, and he's sitting there in the back. The board did meet for the first time not that long ago, April 15th, 2026. So lastly, I'll ask the mayor if he'd like to say a few words about Gary Metro before we close this out.
Yes. So this is coming full circle for me. My first year in the Senate was 2017. That was the year we passed the budget for the double tracking. That double tracking project, I believe, is already starting to yield fruit for Northwest Indiana, again, because of the support of the RDA and NICD. And I want to thank the governor for appointing me to the NICD board. But during that time, I noticed that we had several communities that were building new stations in their vicinities or in the downtown areas. And the city of Gary did not have that in the future plans. So work with this body again, Senator Mishler, thank you for co-sponsoring that, co-authoring that bill with me, Senate Bill 434. And right now, I believe this new metro station, as this body has been formed, and now we're taking the steps to figure out the next design and construction and getting more additional federal dollars for the platform. This is going to be a transformational piece outside of just the convention center aspect. I want to just make a couple of mentions because I got the window to do this. Public safety has been an issue, and from reality and perception aspect when it comes down to Gary, and conversations I've had with many of you as well. Violence is at an all-time low in the city of Gary. It's the lowest it's been in 50 years. Our homicide rates, I believe, is lower than about 60%. So we're grateful for the men and women that protect the city of Gary. This is going to be a transformational project because so many developers are looking at downtown and the potential and our partnership with U.S. Steel and Hard Rock and the private sector that we're targeting public safety in that vicinity with the hopes of, number one, building a brand new police station downtown. Our current police officers are in an old hospital. They do their roll call in an old morgue of a hospital, to give you some context. And my chief of staff, we've toured police stations around the state. We've been to Lafayette. We've been to other communities. And that's our plans. How do we use our current dollars more responsibly to budget for projects that have been legacy issues that's been dragging the city for a number of years? So again, partnering with the county, partnering with the RDA. And I committed to update this body, the General Assembly, on our progress along the way. So this is just one of those moments to let you know, even with the resources that we have, we're making great strides in lowering overall violence and crime in the city of Gary. But it's because of partnerships like this.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So lastly, the RDA does request the release of the first year of funding of $3 million. The funding will be matched with Gary funds to design the new Gary Metro Station. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. We appreciate your partnership, and we're happy to answer any questions.
First of all, I just want to thank Mayor Melton. You're really good about communication. I feel like I'm very versed on what's going on in Gary, and I don't live that close to Gary, but you're good about sharing with me the projects you're working on, collaborating with us, asking questions. I mean, you actually ask, hey, how do you feel about this? Do you think this will work? I mean, that's how things work. And so I just want to tell you how much I appreciate the phone calls from you going over these projects and things like that. So I think you're doing a good job, and I just wish you the best on all this stuff. Any questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I know I went out of order in the beginning. I only did it because I didn't want the folks to have to sit around all day knowing that we weren't going to hear their project. So with that, is there any motions to remove items from the agenda? Is there a motion for the agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move the agenda as it was amended, sir.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So with that, just a quick note, I'll kind of reiterate what I said, I think, in May. And I appreciate everybody giving me your days. I'm trying hard to work around vacation schedules and stuff. So as I said, we'll have, our next meeting will be in August, and our following meeting will be in October, and then last meeting, obviously, here in December. The other two will be travel, and December we'll be back here at the State House. So we're still working on location for August and October. Once we have that finalized, we'll, and the dates finalized, we'll get that to you as soon as possible. Representative Delaney?
Yeah, with regard to the agenda, I, like everybody else, appreciates the fact that we've had a reprieve on gasoline taxes, both the excise and the sales taxes. But I'm hearing from local government that depends on getting their share, their reported amounts under those funds. They're concerned as to whether they'll have to reduce their expected receipts or not. And I would hope that at the August meeting, somebody, perhaps the administration, could be invited to tell us, are we going to take that out of X or Y, or are we going to allow the locals or require the locals to receive less revenue? They're doing their budgets now, and then they have this fiscal payment in the spring, and they need to know. So I'd ask that we put that on the agenda.
I'll have Director Rainey kind of address that.
Yeah, thank you, Representative. I think as everybody's known, the governor is committed to making the locals whole. We are currently working on that and fleshing out exactly what that means and the mechanism behind that. With the chair's permission, I'd be happy to update the committee writ large at the next meeting, and we should have some answers for you by then.
Yeah, I think it's been decided it doesn't have to come to Budget Committee.
It does not.
Because it's going to be done internally.
It will be.
So yeah, I guess all we'll ask is kind of a
Update on
time
numbers.
frame and how it was done and things like that.
Yeah,
Is
I
that what you're
appreciate
asking for?
it. People are concerned, understandably.
Oh, I'm hearing from the counties as well, yeah.
I will have that available.
You have the same problems up there?
Yeah.
All right.
All right, thanks, everybody. With that, we will adjourn.